Chapter 461. Finally, Princess Bai Yao withdrew her gaze and sat at the left side of the emperor. But her beautiful eyes that were like water still couldn't refrain from occasionally sneaking glances at Duan Lingtian. That handsome face that had haunted her dreams had appeared countless times in the middle of the night. Now, it had truly appeared in front of her eyes. It caused her feelings to rise and fall, and she was unable to calm down for a long time. Presently, Duan Lingtian and Princess Bai Yao sat at the two sides of the emperor, and when looked at from afar, they were simply like a pair of golden boy and jade girl made in heaven. At this moment, everything in the surroundings seemed to be overshadowed by them. Duan Lingtian's brows raised as his gaze calmly descended onto the middle-aged man, and he thought in his heart, "He's that Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy?" Subsequently, Duan Lingtian looked at the other three people beside the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy. These were three young men, and the oldest was around the age of 35. The youngest was around the age of 30. Presently, the burning gazes of these three people descended onto Princess Bai Yao, and it was as if their gazes had grown roots. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a wisp of disdain when he saw this. These are the three great young geniuses of the Sun Ascent Kingdom? Not to mention anything else as far as Duan Lingtian was concerned, it would be difficult for these three people to have great accomplishments in their entire lifetimes. Respected Crimson Sky Emperor, now that everyone has arrived, can the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of our Sun Ascent Kingdom and your Crimson Sky Kingdom begin? I already can't wait to experience the graceful bearing of the young geniuses of your noble kingdom. The youngest young man beside the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy looked at the emperor as he spoke with slight urgency. The emperor hadn't spoken when another young man around the age of 32 or 33 beside the young man couldn't help but laugh. I think you're wanting to experience the graceful bearing of the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom is fake, and your real intention is to show off before the beautiful princess, right? Could it be that you don't want to? The former grunted coldly and wasn't courteous in the slightest to his companion. Amongst the three of us, your strength is the weakest. Let me see how you embarrass yourself before the beautiful princess. The latter's words were full of mockery. Since the geniuses of the Sun Ascent Kingdom are already impatient, then I announce that the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of my Crimson Sky Kingdom and Sun Ascent Kingdom officially begins today. The emperor's face was calm as he slowly announced, "Whoosh." As soon as the emperor finished speaking, the figure of the youngest young man in the Sun Ascent Kingdom flashed, and he stood on the empty space between the 6 seats. "My name is Jianghu. I've long heard that the Crimson Sky Kingdom is filled with young experts. Is anyone willing to come up and give me some pointers?" Jianghu's gaze swept past the young geniuses in the various seats of the Crimson Sky Kingdom as he slowly spoke. His words were filled with provocation. "I'll take care of you." Beside the Su clan's patriarch, a Su clan disciple around the age of 27 or 28 flew out to stand in confrontation with Jianghu. Crimson Sky Kingdom Su clan Sui. The Su family's disciple nodded at Jianghu and said slowly, "Although this is the first time I've come to the Crimson Sky Kingdom, I've heard of your Su clan during these few days that I've been in the Imperial City. I know that the Su clan is one of the 3 great clans of the Imperial City. Today let me experience the strength of the Su clan disciples." "Excuse me." As Jianghu spoke, his figure flashed out with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Whoosh. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a cannonball that flashed straight towards Sui. In the sky, 100 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. 7th level of the Origin Core stage. Suyi's face went grim when he saw this. Obviously, Jianghu's strength had exceeded his expectations. Suyi's face sank, then he directly withdrew a spirit sword from the sword sheath on his waist with a raise of his hand before flashing out. Instantly, 70 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above him, and then through the amplification of the spirit sword, another 13 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared, 5th level of the Origin Core stage, Grade 8 Spirit Sword. Whoosh. The sword tore through the sky as if it had transformed into a venomous snake that fiercely bit towards Jianghu. This sword strike contained the strength of 83 ancient mammoths. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Jianghu had a disdainful expression when he saw this, and he directly moved to intercept it. His figure flashed out to easily dodge Suyi's sword strike. Bang! Jianghu smashed out with his fist, and in the time it flashed like a bolt of lightning, it instantly descended onto Suyi's chest like a heavy hammer smashing down, blasting Sui flying. Crack! The ear-piercing sound of bones breaking abruptly sounded out, and it was extremely clear. Sui flew out like an arrow that left the bow, then fiercely crashed onto the ground and fainted. You. The Su clan's patriarch, Su Boye's face went grim, and he hurriedly went to look at Su Yi's injuries. He never imagined that the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom would actually attack so ruthlessly. A 7th-level Origin Core Stage martial artist dealing with a 5th-level Origin Core Stage martial artist with such ruthlessness was truly lacking in bearing. Duan Ling Tian frowned slightly, and felt that the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom had gone slightly too far. They didn't hold back in the slightest when defeating a person that was 2 levels weaker than them, and it was infuriating. This is called making friends through martial arts? Those that didn't know would think that the scene from before was a battle between enemies. At this moment, besides Duan Ling Tian Mou, the Divine Might Marquis, and the Emperor, the other members of the Crimson Sky Kingdom had furious expressions. The Sun Ascent Kingdom had gone too far. Seeming to have noticed the atmosphere at the scene, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy stood up in a timely manner and fiercely glared at Jianghu. Jianghu, today was only a making friends through martial arts between the young geniuses of our Sun Ascent Kingdom and the Crimson Sky Kingdom. How could you be so ruthless? Quickly apologized to His Majesty the Crimson Sky. But everyone present were discerning people, and how could they be unable to discern that although the envoy was lecturing Jianghu, his eyes contained slight complacency mixed within. Yes, Lord Envoy. Jianghu laughed instead of getting angry when he was lectured. Then he looked at the Emperor and cupped his hands. Your Majesty the Crimson Sky, Jianghu was too ruthless earlier, I'm sorry. It's fine. The Emperor waved his hand with a carefree expression as he slowly said, breaking bones and tendons can't be avoided in a martial arts spar, so long as it doesn't harm one's life. Your Majesty the Crimson Sky is wise. Jianghu grinned, and after his infatuated gaze flashed past Princess Bai Yao's face, he turned around once more and said provocatively, next, I wonder which young genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom is willing to give me some guidance? Friends below the 7th level of the Origin Core Stage, please don't waste my time. As he finished speaking, a wisp of disdain flashed within Jianghu's eyes. I'll do it. Jianghu's actions had long since aroused the public indignation of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. At this moment, a young man around the age of 30 walked out from the Duan clan's side, and he looked at Jianghu with an arrogant expression. Remember well, the person that defeated you today is I, Duan Sheng. Duan Sheng? After this battle you'll change your name to Duan Bai. Jianghu grunted coldly, then his figure flashed out to battle Duan Sheng. In the end, Jianghu defeated Duan Sheng before Duan Sheng utilized his spirit weapon, and broke a few of Duan Sheng's ribs. Although Duan Sheng was at the 7th level of the Origin Core Stage as well, he'd obviously just broken through not long ago. Moreover, his actual combat experience was far inferior to Jianghu, and after exchanging over 10 moves with Jianghu, he was defeated by a flaw Jianghu revealed. From today onwards you'll be called Duan Bai. Jianghu laughed loudly and was incomparably arrogant, seeming as if no one was able to compete with him. The Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, had just fed Duan Sheng a gold injury pill when he heard what Jianghu said, and his face instantly sank. In the next moment, he abruptly raised his head to look at Duan Lingtian who sat by the Emperor's side, and his voice transmission contained slight rage mixed within. Little Tian, take revenge for Duan Sheng. Don't worry, Patriarch, he won't be able to jump around for long. Duan Lingtian nodded to Duan Ruhua as he replied via voice transmission. I'll deal with you. A cold shout sounded out, and a person flashed out from the Shao clan's seats. It was precisely Duan Lingtian's acquaintance, Xiao Yu. Who are you? Jianghu looked at Xiao Yu and asked with an arrogant expression. Under the gazes of everyone present, he'd won 2 battles successively and brought honor to the kingdom. Such a battle accomplishment caused him to be extremely complacent. Defeat me and you'll naturally know. Xiao Yu had a cold expression as he spoke in a cool manner. This fellow is pretending to be cool again. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled when he saw this scene, and his gaze was absent-minded as if he'd once again recalled the scene of meeting Xiao Yu for the first time at the Aurora City's Hidden Dragon List gathering of geniuses a few years ago. At that time Xiao Yu was just so cold. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse that had been sleeping on Duan Lingtian's shoulder on the way to the Imperial Palace woke up, and when it opened its eyes, it saw the pile of delicacies before it, and its figure flashed out to stand on the table before impolitely nibbling on the various delicacies. What a cute little gold mouse. Because of the existence of Duan Lingtian, Princess Bai Yao wasn't too interested in making friends through martial arts. Now, when she saw the fluffy little gold mouse flashing off Duan Lingtian's shoulder, her clear eyes that were like water emitted a wisp of tender affection. Squeak squeak, when the little gold mouse heard Princess Bai Yao's voice, It winked at her for a moment before continuing to lower its head to nibble on the delicacies on the table. What an intelligent little gold mouse. Princess Bai Yao's eyes glowed when she saw this scene, as it was the first time she'd seen such an intelligent pet mouse. Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the flat ground ahead. Presently, when facing Xiaoyu who had a cold expression, Jianghu burst into rage, and his figure flashed out like a cannonball as his iron fist shot out menacingly. When facing Jianghu's attack, Xiaoyu stood on the spot, completely calm and unmoving like a mountain. Universe in the sleeve? Before Xiaoyu had even made a move, Duan Lingtian felt that the scene before him was slightly familiar, and his brows couldn't help but raise. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian's guess was correct. Universe in the sleeve. Xiaoyu made a move, he flicked his sleeve, causing it to swell up and sweep out to greet Jianghu's iron fist. Bang! Jianghu's fist that flashed out like a cannonball smashed onto Xiaoyu's sleeve, and he felt as if he'd struck a ball of cotton and was utterly powerless. Jianghu used a spirit weapon. Right at this moment, the expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador went grim, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission to remind Jianghu. Chapter 462. Jianghu's face went grim when he heard the reminder of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, and he hurriedly withdrew his hand like a bolt of lightning before grabbing towards his waist, wanting to withdraw the sheathed spirit saber from his waist. But would he be in time? Umph. At practically the instant Jianghu withdrew his hand, Xiaoyu's sleeves bulged up once more and swiftly flashed out. Before Jianghu could withdraw his saber, Xiaoyu followed him like a shadow and blasted onto Jianghu's body, as if he could predict the future. Ah! Jianghu's shrill cry completely suppressed the sound of his ribs breaking, and his entire body was blasted flying before crashing onto the ground in a sorry state. After crashing onto the ground, the intense pain caused Jianghu to roll all over the ground as cold sweat flowed. Xiaoyu victory. Good. Instantly many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom cheered. Especially the Shao clan's patriarch, a smile appeared on his face. Earlier, no matter if it was the Su clan or Duan clan, all of them had disciples that entered the arena to battle Jianghu, yet all of them ended in miserable defeat. Xiaoyu defeating Jianghu had undoubtedly brought great honor to him and the Shao clan. Ah, good. The emperor's face revealed a smile as well. Although he'd always maintained his composure earlier and seemed to be indifferent towards the outcome of the battle, but every time a young genius from the Crimson Sky Kingdom was defeated, slight disappointment couldn't help but arise in his heart. Now that Xiaoyu had defeated a young genius from the Sun Ascent Kingdom, it brought honor to him. What's your name? The emperor looked at Xiaoyu and asked. Your Majesty, I'm Xiaoyu. When facing the emperor, Xiaoyu's face didn't have the coldness from before, and he was reverent and respectful. Your Majesty, Xiaoyu is my good friend. Duan Lingtian looked at the emperor as he spoke via voice transmission. His actions were undoubtedly because he hoped that the emperor would think more highly of Xiaoyu. This was extremely important to Xiaoyu's future. Xiaoyu was his friend, and he hoped that Xiaoyu would be able to make a name for himself in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. The emperor's gaze squinted when he heard Duan Lingtian's voice transmission, and he glanced deeply at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, I'll remember this. I'll properly reward you after the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of our Crimson Sky Kingdom and Sun Ascent Kingdom ends. Thank you, Your Majesty. Xiaoyu hurriedly responded, his face full of flattery. Unlike Duan Lingtian, although Xiaoyu's martial talent was not bad, it was only limited to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Duan Lingtian's future wasn't something that could be restricted by the Crimson Sky Kingdom. On the other hand, if nothing unexpected happened, Xiaoyu was bound to spend his entire life in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. In the eyes of Xiaoyu, the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom was a supreme existence. Now that such an existence wanted to reward him, it caused him to be pleasantly surprised and terrified at the same time. The Shao clan disciples are indeed extraordinary. Most importantly, they're young and still have a lot of room for development. They're much stronger than the Su clan and Duan clan disciples. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy looked at Xiaoyu as a cold light flashed within the depths of his eyes, and his face was covered in a hypocritical smile as he spoke slowly. These words were obviously sowing discord. Envoy, you're mistaken. Right when the expressions of the Su clan and Duan clan's patriarchs went grim, Xiaoyu glanced calmly at the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy. The Su clan and Duan clan are the same as our Shao clan. They're both the three great clans of the imperial city, and the experts within their clans are numerous like the clouds. No matter if it's the Su clan or Duan clan, they both have a young genius that I'm ashamed of my inferiority. Moreover, the ages of those two young geniuses aren't older than me. Xiaoyu spoke slowly. Brother Xiaoyu, your words are a bit too much. Your current age is at most around 25 years old. The Su clan and Duan clan actually have young geniuses that are younger than you and possess strengths that surpass you? The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy obviously didn't believe it. No matter if envoy believes it or not. That person from the Su clan has already left the Imperial City a few years ago to wander the world. Before he left, in terms of strength and natural talent, he far surpassed me. As for that person from the Duan clan, I think Lord Envoy will have the chance to meet him very soon. As Xiaoyu spoke up to hear, he paused for a moment, and his gaze imperceptibly glanced at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. He naturally guessed who the two people Xiaoyu spoke of were. The Su clan Su Li. The young sword cultivator that he and Xiaoyu got acquainted with in the Iron Blood Army's genius camp when they were young. Later on, he even entered the Imperial City's Paladin Academy with them and became good friends. But unfortunately, fate made fools of people. Su Li was forced to leave in the end, and there was no news of him until now. But one thing could be sure of was that before Su Li left, in terms of strength and natural talent, he indeed far surpassed Xiaoyu. As for the Duan clan, Duan Lingtian naturally guessed that the person Xiaoyu spoke of was him. The unsightly expression of the Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, eased up, and he glanced at Duan Lingtian as a wisp of a smile appeared on his face. Right, the young geniuses of their Duan clan weren't inferior to the disciples of any other clan. He believed that even those large clans of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom might not have a young genius that could compare with Duan Lingtian in terms of natural talent in the martial Dao. The corners of the Su clan's patriarch, Su Boya, curled into a bitter smile. He naturally guessed that the young genius of the Su clan that Xiaoyu spoke of was Su Li. However, could Su Li still be considered as a disciple of the Su clan? He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Then I'll look forward to it. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy glanced indifferently at Xiaoyu, then he looked at the other young man by his side. Hai Yi, you go experience the ability of this brother Xiaoyu. Remember to show mercy, don't be careless and cripple him. Duan Lingtian frowned slightly. This Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy emphasized the word cripple, and his intentions could be seen from this. Yes, Lord Envoy. The Hai Yi that was called out by the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy was precisely the young man that bickered with Jianghu earlier. He who had a robust figure took large strides forward with a majestic gait, and he gave others a shapeless feeling of oppression. When he saw Xiaoyu revealing an expression of eagerness, Duan Lingtian's eyes squinted slightly, and his spiritual force swept out to envelop Hai Yi. 9th level of the Origin Core stage. At the first possible moment, Duan Lingtian confirmed Hai Yi's cultivation. Brother Xiaoyu, I'm extremely happy that you've defeated Jianghu. If it was at any other time, I would surely have a few drinks with you. But now that the Lord Envoy has spoken, I have no choice but to fight you. Hai Yi stood in confrontation with Xiaoyu, and he grinned, revealing his snow-white teeth that were set against his dark skin, causing it to be especially conspicuous. Xiaoyu glanced deeply at Hai Yi. Since you're so straightforward, then I'm not someone that doesn't know what's good for me. I admit defeat. Admit defeat. As soon as Xiaoyu said this, besides Duan Lingtian, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. They obviously never imagined that Xiaoyu would make such a decision. They were extremely bewildered. A moment ago, Xiaoyu still had an appearance of eagerness. Why did he suddenly change so quickly at this moment? Right when most of the people present reacted to what had happened, Xiaoyu had already returned to the side of the Xiao clan's patriarch. When faced with the question of the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiaoyu replied via voice transmission. Patriarch, this Sun Ascent Kingdom's Hai Yi is a 9th level Origin Core stage martial artist. The Xiao clan's patriarch's face went grim when he heard this. I was wondering how extraordinary the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Qing Lin was, but I never imagined that he's just someone that fled in the face of battle. The face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy sank when he saw Xiaoyu admitting defeat, and he couldn't refrain from ridiculing. I know my limits. A 9th level Origin Core stage martial artist. I'm not a match for him. Xiaoyu glanced deeply at Hai Yi as he spoke slowly. How did you know? Hai Yi's face went grim and he was slightly moved. He felt that since arriving at the Crimson Sky Kingdom, he'd never fought, so logically speaking, there ought to be no one that knew his true cultivation. Now that it was exposed by Xiaoyu, he was unable to wrap his head around it. The face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy sank as he glared at Hai Yi, then he said via voice transmission. Hai Yi, Gulu exposed his cultivation at the first level of the nascent soul stage in advance, and you were present when I taught him a lesson. I repeatedly instructed you not to expose your cultivation before today, and this is how you promised me? Obviously, as far as the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy was concerned, Hai had surely exposed his cultivation in advance. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the members of the Crimson Sky Kingdom to know Hai's cultivation in advance. Lord Envoy, since arriving at the Crimson Sky Kingdom, I've never fought and never exposed my cultivation, Hai replied via voice transmission, and his tone was filled with grievance. 9th level Origin Core Stage. Xiao Yu's words had already caused everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom to be greatly shocked, and when they noticed the unsightly expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy, they completely confirmed it. Looks like the second person from the Sun Ascent Kingdom to enter the arena is really a 9th level Origin Core Stage martial artist. Instantly, the expressions of some disciples from the 3 great clans that were eager to give it a try went grim, and they sat down once again and didn't dare move rashly. What a joke. A 9th level Origin Core Stage martial artist was utterly not something they were capable of going against. Now they felt slightly fortunate. Fortunately, Xiao Yu exposed Hai's cultivation, otherwise they would surely not have a good end. Duan Lingtian looked at the scene before him with a calm expression. The reason Xiao Yu admitted defeat was entirely because he'd told Xiao Yu about Hai's specific cultivation via voice transmission earlier. Xiao Yu trusted Duan Lingtian incomparably, and didn't doubt Duan Lingtian's words in the slightest, and directly admitted defeat, causing the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy's plan to teach Xiao Yu a lesson to fail. 9th level Origin Core Stage. For a time, the gazes of the members of the 3 great clans of the Crimson Sky Kingdom practically descended onto Nie Fin, who sat at the Divine Might Marquis Estate's seating area in unison. Nie Fin, the Divine Might Marquis Estate's junior marquis, and his cultivation was at the 9th level of the Origin Core Stage. As far as they were concerned, amongst the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom present, probably only Duan Lingtian and Nie Fin had the strength to compete with the Sun Ascent Kingdom's Hai. Subconsciously, they'd taken Duan Lingtian to be their final trump card. After all, the Sun Ascent Kingdom still had a first-level nascent soul stage young genius that hadn't made a move yet. Before today they even thought that the Crimson Sky Kingdom would lose for sure. But at the moment they saw Duan Lingtian earlier, they seemed to have seen the light of dawn, the light of hope, as far as they were concerned. Chapter 463. Swoosh. Nie Fin's figure flashed out, and in the blink of an eye, he stood before the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Hai, and stood in confrontation with him. Crimson Sky Kingdom, Divine Might Marquis Estate, Nie Fin. Nie Fin glanced indifferently at Hai as he spoke slowly. Nie Fin. Hai hadn't reacted when the gaze of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy squinted. So it's the Divine Might Marquis Estate's junior marquis. The Crimson Sky Kingdom's Divine Might Marquis is the god of war whose might shakes the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Although I'm in the distant Sun Ascent Kingdom, it's like a thunderclap that reverberates in my ears. Now that I've seen the junior marquis today, he's awe-inspiring and has an imposing appearance. As expected, like father, like son. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy spoke extremely highly of Nie Fin. As for whether it was true or false, everyone present was more or less able to discern. Sometimes the higher one was praised, the more one couldn't afford to lose. Otherwise, once one fell, one would be smashed into pieces. Divine Might Marquis Ba-Er greets you. Subsequently, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy looked at Nie Yuan who sat opposite him, and he nodded with a smile. Envoy, you're too kind. Nie Yuan replied indifferently, and he was obviously slightly dispirited. This caused the expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy Ba-Er to sink slightly, but in next to no time, he bloomed into a smile as his expression changed extremely quickly. This Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy is really a smiling tiger. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Ba-Er as he thought to himself. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy Ba-Er seemed to be ordinary, but how acute was Duan Lingtian's spiritual force? He'd long since discerned that Ba-Er was a half-step void stage martial artist with extraordinary strength. Hai, this Divine Might Marquis Estate's junior marquis Nie Fin, is a 9th level Origin Core Stage martial artist just like you. According to my knowledge, his strength is the strongest amongst the younger generation of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. No matter if you're able to defeat him or not, we'll win for sure today. Ba looked at Ha and said via voice transmission. But, if you're able to defeat him, Gulu doesn't have to make a move. In this way, our Sun Ascent Kingdom will obtain a complete victory. When we return, I will definitely ask His Majesty to reward you well. Envoy, don't worry, I'll. Ha replied via voice transmission. Young Marquis, please excuse my rudeness. A cold light suffused Hai Yi's eyes, and at the instant he looked at Nye Fun, the origin energy between his legs suddenly skyrocketed and raged. In the sky above him, 120 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes were accumulating force and waiting to be deployed. The next moment, whoosh, Hai Yi moved. His entire body seemed to have transformed into an arrow shot from a powerful bow. His speed was extremely shocking. Wherever it passed, the sound of wind whistling could be heard, mixed with a series of muffled explosions. Whoosh. Right when Hai Yi flashed near Nye Fin, his right hand flashed past his waist like a bolt of lightning, and he withdrew the sheathed spirit saber, causing the saber light to flash before vanishing. The exceedingly swift saber light leaped about with raging origin energy, as if it was all-conquering, and it carried an all-powerful might as it swept towards Nye Fun. Above the void, 22 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the 120 ancient mammoth silhouettes. The 9th level of the origin core stage. An 8th grade spirit saber. This slash contained the strength of 142 ancient mammoths, and everywhere it passed, the airflow in the air would split apart, causing its imposing aura to shoot into the sky like a rainbow. Since Hai Yi attacked until now, everything had only occurred in the blink of an eye. Many young geniuses from the Crimson Sky Kingdom broke out in cold sweat when they saw Hai Yi's speed being so swift. This Hai Yi is really at the 9th level of the origin core stage. Fortunately, I didn't enter the arena, otherwise I would only be asking for humiliation. I'm afraid only Duan Lingtian and the Junior Marquis from our Crimson Sky Kingdom are capable of going against this Hai Yi. Right when the young geniuses from the Crimson Sky Kingdom were perturbed, Nye Fin moved. Whoosh. Nye Fin's movements were swift like the wind, and he dodged to the side. But the Grade 8 spirit saber in Hai Yi's hand seemed as if it had eyes, and it turned and swept towards Nye Fin like a gangrene attached to the bone, following him like a shadow, causing Nye Fin to have nowhere to dodge. A cold snort sounded out, and it was Nye Fin's eyes that squinted as he withdrew a spirit sword with a raise of his hand. Swish. The sword light flashed out and similarly contained the strength of 142 ancient mammoths, and it collided with the Grade 8 spirit saber in Hai Yi's hand. Clang. Accompanied by the sound of iron colliding, origin energies collided together, and the air froze for a moment. In the next moment, Nye Fin and Hai Yi were both blasted back at the same time. Both of them retreated 7 steps each. Satisfying. Battle intent rose in Nye Fin's eyes, as if he'd returned to the days when he fought on the battlefield, and the aura of slaughter on his body shot into the sky with an imposing aura that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Fight. 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 At this moment, it was as if only Hai Yi remained in the world within Nye Fin's eyes. Whereas Hai Yi was his enemy. Kill. Suddenly, Nye Fin shouted out explosively with a heroic spirit that shot into the clouds. In the next moment, Nye Fin seemed as if he was possessed by a god of war, and his body carried a shocking aura of slaughter as he flashed out with an imposing aura that shot into the sky, and he seemed to have the bearing of sweeping through everything. This Hai Yi is going to lose. Duan Lingtian casually swept Hai Yi with his gaze, and he thought in his heart. In the distance, Hai Yi had caught his breath with great difficulty when he noticed that Nye Fin had attacked once again. Instantly, he felt as if there was a terrifying aura of slaughter that swept over from Nye Fin's body, and it caused a trace of terror to arise from the bottom of his heart. No. We're both 9th level origin core stage martial artists, why would I need to be afraid of him? Hai Yi gritted his teeth, and the Grade 8 spirit saber in his hand bloomed with origin energy as he intended to intercept Nye Fin's attack. Right at this moment. Kill. Nye Fin spoke out once more with a voice that was like a thunderclap and contained the aura of slaughter from the battlefield, and it once again enveloped Hai Yi, causing Hai Yi to be distracted. The origin energy on the Grade 8 spirit saber instantly withered slightly. Swish. The sword and saber fiercely collided together once more, and origin energy roared out like a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger. It was different from the evenly matched battle from before. This time, Nye Fin's battle-intent soared as the hot blood in his body burned and seethed, and he seemed as if he'd returned to the days of slaughter on the battlefield. This sword strike contained many things. On the other hand, Hai Yi's distraction earlier caused the origin energy on the Grade 8 spirit saber in his hand to show signs of collapsing. Now they collided. Clang. The sound of iron weapons colliding sounded out once more. This time, the Grade 8 spirit saber in Hai Yi's hand was directly blasted flying, whereas the spirit sword in Nye Fin's hand was withdrawn when it blasted the spirit saber flying. Whoosh. But Nie Fen's fist instead carried along vast origin energy as it fiercely descended onto Ha Yi's chest. Crack. The clear sound of bones breaking sounded out, and it caused one's hair to stand on end. Ah! Ha Yi let out a shrill cry in hindsight as his entire body flew out in a sorry state before fiercely falling onto the ground, and after struggling for a while, he directly fainted. Nie Fen victory. Ah! Good. Instantly, many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom cheered for Nie Fen. Thank you. Nie Fen looked at the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Er, who was inspecting Ha Yi's injuries, and he was refined and courteous, and his calm expression seemed to be harmless. This caused Ba Er to be angered to the point of almost spitting blood. This Nie Fen heavily injured Ha Yi to the point he fainted, yet he actually seemed as if nothing had happened. Damn it. Junior Marquis is worthy of being the son of the Divine Might Marquis. You've already developed such a terrifying aura of slaughter on the battlefield at such a young age. I'm afraid there's very few people below the nascent soul stage that are a match for you. Our Sun Ascent Kingdom wholeheartedly accepts our loss in this battle. After Ba Er gave Ha Yi a healing medicinal pill, he glanced deeply at Nie Fen. But if Junior Marquis were to encounter a nascent soul stage martial artist, then this aura of slaughter on the battlefield on you would probably only be a type of gorgeous decoration that would be completely useless. Nie Fen smiled indifferently and declined to comment. This caused Ba Er to be even more enraged from embarrassment, and he shouted out in a low voice. Gulu. Along with Ba Er speaking, the robust young man that sat opposite the Divine Might Marquis estate's seat, and his gaze never left Princess Bai Yao from the beginning until the end abruptly returned to his senses. This robust young man was precisely the strongest person in the younger generation of the Sun Ascent Kingdom. Gulu. His cultivation was at the first level of the nascent soul stage. In the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist around the age of 35 could only be considered to be above average. But in a tiny kingdom he could be considered to be a genius that was hard to come by. Crackle. Crackle. Gulu's figure flashed out as if transforming into a gust of wind that instantly arrived at the battlefield and stood in confrontation with Nie Fen. He lightly twisted his neck and emitted a wave of clear sounds of bones rubbing against each other. You aren't a match for me. Gulu glanced lazily at Nie Fen and spoke with slightly waning interest. Along with Gulu clenching his fists tightly, 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form in the sky above him, and they accumulated force while waiting to attack. First-level nascent soul stage. Although most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom had already heard that one of the three young geniuses from the Sun Ascent Kingdom was at the first level of the nascent soul stage, they still couldn't help but be slightly shocked when they really saw it with their own two eyes. Meanwhile, the gazes of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom practically descended onto Nie Fen. They were curious whether Nie Fen would choose to battle Gulu or choose to admit defeat. If he chose to battle Gulu, there was practically no possibility of winning. The gap between the 9th level of the Origin Core stage and the first level of the Nascent Soul stage was too great. If he were to admit defeat, it would undoubtedly increase the prestige of the Sun Ascent Kingdom and cause the arrogance of the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom to flourish even more. I admit defeat. In next to no time, Nie Fen made his decision and shrugged before returning to the Divine Might Marquis Estate's seats with an indifferent expression. The people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom weren't surprised when they saw this scene. Fortunately, they still had trump cards on their side, so they didn't feel any sense of loss because of Nie Fen admitting defeat. Ha! The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy Ba Er laughed loudly and was extremely arrogant. Junior Marquis, a wise man submits to circumstances as expected. Your Majesty, in this way our Sun Ascent Kingdom ought to have won the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of our two kingdoms, right? As he finished speaking, Ba Er's eyes narrowed and his face was filled with a delighted smile, as if the 3 years of taxes of the Crimson Sky Kingdom was already close at hand and within easy reach. Truly boring. Could it be that there isn't a slightly decent young genius in the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Gulu spoke lazily before turning around and intending to return to his seat. Wait. Chapter 464. Divine Might Marquis, what advice do you have? Gulu turned around and looked at Nie Yuan as he asked. Nie Yuan didn't answer Gulu, and instead looked at the young man that sat by his side. Although he didn't know much about this young man and only knew that this young man was the junior brother of his nephew, Duan Ling Tian, but since his nephew was so confident in this young man, he still chose to believe him. The young man was precisely Mou. Mou nodded when he saw Nie Yuan looking over, Then he stood up and walked into the arena with large strides to stand opposite of Gulu and face each other. Mou was undoubtedly an unfamiliar face to the people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. This young man's age looks to be around 23 at most. Why would the Divine Might Marquis allow him to come out at this time? Could it be that his strength is even stronger than the Junior Marquis? This was the sudden thought that arose in the hearts of most of the people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. After all, Mou's age was truly too young. The Emperor sat at the host's seat, and his eyes emitted slight surprise and curiosity as they locked tightly onto Mou. Commander Duan, this young man seems to be someone that follows by your side? Under his curiosity, the Emperor sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. He remembered that when he saw this young man for the first time, this young man followed behind Duan Lingtian and seemed to be extremely reverent towards Duan Lingtian. Moreover, he knew the Divine Might Marquis Nie Yuan very well. He knew that if it wasn't for Nie Yuan being confident, he would absolutely not allow this young man to fight. He's my junior brother. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled. Junior brother? The Emperor was shocked. This young man was called junior brother by Duan Lingtian, and his identity was obvious. He was a member of a sect of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Mou. Mou looked calmly at Gulu and nodded indifferently. When Mou came out, Gulu's brows were already knit together, and now that he heard Mou introduce himself, his face sank. Kid, you're not a match for me, stand down. As far as he was concerned, no matter how strong the natural talent of a young man around the age of 23 was, how strong could he be? He, a nascent soul-stage martial artist, battling a young man like this, even if he won it wouldn't be honorable. Mou, it seems that someone has underestimated you. Right at this moment, an abrupt voice was transmitted into the ears of everyone present. It's Duan Lingtian. Immediately, the gazes of the majority of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's people uniformly fell upon Duan Lingtian, who was sitting beside the Emperor. Was this young man brought back by Duan Lingtian? Their hearts jumped. They knew exactly where Duan Lingtian had gone in the past few years. Looks like this young man ought to be a member of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's sect. The group of people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom couldn't help but guess in their hearts. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's special envoy glanced at Duan Lingtian and frowned. If it wasn't for the fact that this young man was sitting before the Emperor and obviously had an extraordinary status, he would have long since retorted. A kid that's still wet behind the ears like this dares to underestimate the strongest amongst the young geniuses of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, Gulu? But in the next moment, the scene before his eyes caused the expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy to completely change. Along with Duan Lingtian's voice resounding out, Mou abruptly took a step forward. Instantly, the energy of heaven and earth roiled in the sky above him, and in the end, it transformed into 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes. At this moment, the 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes stopped in the sky above Mou, accumulating force while waiting to attack. When looked at from afar, it seemed to be extremely dazzling, and at the same time, it brought great visual shock to the people present. Nascent. First level of the nascent soul stage. How old is he? His natural talent is even more abnormal than the number one genius of our Crimson Sky Kingdom, Duan Ruffing, from over 20 years ago. Too terrifying. This is the genius martial artist of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? On the side of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, the members of the three great clans including the patriarchs were all dumbstruck. They only felt indescribable shock in their hearts. The Emperor's face revealed a smile when he saw the scene before him, but a trace of shock couldn't avoid flashing within his eyes. The face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's butler flushed red as he looked at Mou and the 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes above Mou, and it was as if someone was choking him tightly, causing him to be unable to speak for a long time. This young man had given him too great of a shock. I've underestimated you. Gulu sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Mou with a solemn expression. Mou looked at Gulu with a calm expression, and a 1-meter-long blade appeared in his hand. Ha! Gulu shouted out explosively when he saw this, and his figure flashed out like the wind as he chose to gain the initiative by striking first. With a raise of his hand, a spirit saber appeared in Gulu's hand as well, and origin energy bloomed on the spirit saber to bestow upon him formidable strength. In the sky above Gulu, 56 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This was the amplification of a spirit weapon. Grade 7 Spirit Saber. Instantly, the expressions of many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom went grim as they cried out in surprise. Never had they imagined that not only was the Sun Ascent Kingdom's Gulu a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist, He even possessed a grade 7 spirit saber to rely on. Although a grade 7 spirit saber was only a grade higher than a grade 8 spirit saber. But its amplification was an entire 10% more. What sort of concept was 10%? Take a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist as an example. Without using a spirit weapon, his strength was comparable to the strength of 200 ancient mammoths. An amplification of 10% was equivalent to the strength of 20 ancient mammoths. In other words, if Mou didn't possess a grade 7 spirit weapon, he would be pulled apart by Gulu with the strength of 20 ancient mammoths. The divine might Marquis Yuan's face went grim. The scene before him had exceeded his expectations. If he knew earlier that Gulu possessed a grade 7 spirit saber, he would surely lend the grade 7 spirit sword he carried with him to Mou. But unfortunately it was already too late now. At this moment, only the three people at the host's table had calm expressions. Duan Lingtian was calm because he knew that the spirit sword in Mou's hand was a grade 7 spirit weapon as well. The emperor was calm because he saw Duan Lingtian was calm, and he trusted Duan Lingtian. As for Princess Bai Yao, she trusted Duan Lingtian even more blindly. A wisp of complacency couldn't help but appear on the face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy, Ba Er, when he saw the expressions of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's people. All of you would never have imagined that I would lend my spirit saber to Gulu in advance, right? Subsequently, Ba Er looked towards the host's table. When he noticed that the three people at the table had calm expressions, his heart jerked as a bad premonition arose within his heart. Swish! An ear-piercing sword howl swept out, rising and falling in succession, and it was ear-piercing to the point the eardrums of the people present trembled intensely. Some of the young geniuses with comparatively weaker cultivations from the three great clans had ghastly pale expressions, and they revealed terrified gazes as they looked at the young man that struck out with his sword. They clearly saw that when this young man called Mou made a move, there were actually as many ancient mammoth silhouettes as there were above Gulu in the sky. They were extremely clear about what this meant. Grade 7 spirit sword. This Mou actually possessed a grade 7 spirit weapon as well. Break. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Gulu, who'd chosen to gain the initiative by striking first, shouted out explosively, and the origin energy on the grade 7 spirit saber in his hand instantly skyrocketed. Instantly, the grade 7 spirit saber in Gulu's hand was completely enveloped by the milky white origin energy that raged and suffused the air, and it instantly transformed into a 3-meter-long enormous saber that slashed down directly towards Mou while carrying along the might of splitting a mountain. It seemed as if it wanted to split Mou into two. 7-star sword technique. Mou's expression remained unchanged when facing Gulu's saber strike that approached menacingly, and his lips moved slightly as he chanted. The grade 7 spirit sword in Mou's hand shook, and it was like a stroke of genius as it tore through the sky and flashed out, causing numerous ear-piercing and muffled explosions to resound out at practically the exact same moment. In the next moment, swish, 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 swish. The grade 7 spirit sword in Mou's hand that was coiled with origin energy instantly transformed into 7 material sword lights that flashed out to intercept the enormous saber in Gulu's hand that slashed down. The 7 sword lights were extremely like falling meteors, and they descended bit by bit to smash onto the enormous saber. Bang! When the first sword light descended, the origin energy on the enormous saber dimmed slightly, and the enormous saber shrunk slightly as well. Bang! When the second sword light descended, the origin energy on the enormous saber dimmed once more, and the enormous saber shrunk once more. Bang! Bang! The fourth sword light, the fifth sword light, the sixth sword light, and the seventh sword light fell one after another. Sword strike after sword strike. It was like the surging waves of the sea, wave after wave, and each wave was stronger than the last. When the sixth sword light descended, the origin energy on the enormous saber in Gulu's hand had already been completely dispersed, and then the grade 7 spirit saber in Gulu's hand returned to its true appearance, and it was dim and lusterless. When the seventh sword light descended, the grade 7 spirit saber in Gulu's hand was blasted flying, and it pierced into the distant wall with a clang. The palm of Gulu's hand that held the saber split open and dripped with blood. At the side of his throat, a grade 7 spirit sword that followed him like a shadow silently pressed against his throat. Silence. The scene was deathly silent. At this moment, the gazes of everyone present had descended onto the two people present on the scene. Mou, this unknown young man, was in high spirits, and the grade 7 spirit sword in his hand was pressed against the neck of the strongest young genius in Sun Ascent Kingdom, Gulu. So long as he made a slight movement, Gulu would die for sure. I've lost. Gulu had a dazed expression, and he allowed blood to ceaselessly flow out from the palm of his hand, as if he didn't notice in the slightest. He'd lost. He'd been defeated by a young man around the age of 23. Perhaps, at the moment the young man executed that profound and unfathomable sword skill, his defeat was already destined. In his entire life, it was still the first time he'd seen such a profound sword skill. Finally, the spectators returned to their senses, and for a time the sound of them drawing cold breaths rose and fell. What a formidable sword skill. That young man's sword skill is so solid that it's hard to tell if it's real or fake. Moreover, each of the 7 sword lights is stronger than the previous one. Every sword is like a meteor falling from the sky. It's really shocking. Being able to witness such a profound sword skill in my lifetime, my life wasn't lived in vain. Chapter 465. I truly never imagined that MOU has actually cultivated the minor 7-star sword technique to the perfection stage. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised. He was able to discern. In terms of stage, the minor 7-star sword technique MOU executed earlier was already not inferior to the minor 7-star sword technique the traitor Huangji executed during the martial competition of the 5 great sections. The martial competition of the 5 great sects. When he recalled the scene of the martial competition of the 5 great sects 1 year ago, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Only 3 of the 5 great sects remained. Moreover, the remaining 3 sects had merged together to form a solid block. Then why did the Origin Convergence sect, Demonic Lotus Blade sect and Snow Moon sect suddenly choose to merge? Now, when he recalled the scene that occurred at the peak of Dubhe Peak that day, Duan Lingtian was still slightly unable to understand. Logically speaking, no matter if it was the Origin Convergence sect, the Demonic Lotus Blade sect or the Snow Moon sect, each of them were sects that had existed for over 1,000 years, and it was impossible for them to easily abandon the name of their respective sects and choose to merge. There's surely something hidden within. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. So long as I have the ability to annihilate the 3 great sects that have merged together in the future, I'll naturally know the reason. Killing intent flashed within Duan Lingtian's eyes, then he withdrew his thoughts and his gaze once again descended onto MOU as he muttered in his heart. Sect leader, don't worry, I'll assist MOU in rebuilding the 7-star sword sect. MOU is very good, very outstanding. You can rest in peace in the netherworld. This MOU. On the Divine Might Marquis Estate seating area, Nye Yuan and Nye Li glanced at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Although they were mentally prepared since long ago. But when they saw MOU really defeat Gulu with their own 2 eyes, they still couldn't help but be shocked in their hearts. This is a person from a sect of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Are all the people from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom so abnormal? The corners of Nye Yuan and Nye Li's mouths simultaneously curled into bitter smiles, and they felt that they'd lived most of their lives in vain. Seeing Black Jade defeat Gru, Duan Lingtian thought that this farce would be over. In his eyes, the so-called friendship through martial arts between the 2 countries could only be considered as a farce. However, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's special envoy seemed to be unconvinced. Your name is MOU? The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Bao, looked at MOU with a burning gaze as he asked with a low voice. MOU nodded. Are you from the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Baer suddenly took a step forward. The aura of a half-step void stage martial artist swept out and enveloped MOU. His pair of sharp eyes stared fixedly at MOU, as if he wanted to see if MOU was lying from the changes in his expression. Bar's actions were beyond everyone's expectations. Instantly, the expressions of the members of the Crimson Sky Kingdom changed. Envoy Barth, what do you mean? Nye Yuan was the first to be unable to restrain himself, and his face sank as he asked in a low voice. Divine Might Marquis, I only want to know the background of this brother MOU. Since brother MOU is able to possess such accomplishments at such an age, I presume he isn't an ordinary person. But I've been in the Crimson Sky Kingdom for many days, yet I've never heard of any rumors related to him. Baer's gaze didn't leave MOU as he said with a calm tone. This time, it's a friendship through martial arts between the young geniuses of my Sun Ascent Kingdom and your Crimson Sky Kingdom. Not a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom interfering seems to go against the original intention of the agreement between me and the Crimson Sky Kingdom, right? MOU was only around 23 years old, and his cultivation was at the first level of the nascent soul stage. Moreover, he'd mastered a marvelous sword skill that caused others to sigh with admiration. As far as Baer was concerned, if MOU was a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then he would surely be famous in the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom long ago, and not be unknown like he was today. When Mou appeared earlier, he noticed that most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom didn't know Mou. Since that time he'd started to be suspicious. It would be fine if Mou lost at Gru's hands, but now it was Mou who had won. According to the bet between the young geniuses of the two kingdoms, if the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were to win, then the Sun Ascent Kingdom would lose 3 years of taxes to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. 3 years of taxes wasn't a small amount, and he was naturally unwilling to give it to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Moreover, he'd come this time precisely for the sake of winning this bet. Now he had the chance to overturn the fact that the Crimson Sky Kingdom had won, so he naturally wouldn't let it slip by. Shameless. Are all of you members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom such sore losers? Looks like your Sun Ascent Kingdom intends to go back on your word. The disciples of the 3 great clans of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were filled with righteous indignation, and they cursed loudly. Ba Er's expression remained unchanged as he said indifferently, "Everyone, I'm only stating a fact. So long as this brother Mou is a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then my Sun Ascent Kingdom is naturally willing to admit defeat." Ba Er stared fixedly at Mou, and his sharp gaze seemed as if it wanted to see through Mou's heart. "Brother Mou, are you a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom?" Ba Er asked once more. "I'm not." Mou shook his head and said indifferently, "I'm only representing my senior brother. If you feel that I'm not a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and this battle doesn't count, then I have no objections. Of course, in this way the young geniuses of your Sun Ascent Kingdom will have to compete with my senior brother." Senior brother? Mou's words caused Ba Er's face to sink. At the first possible moment, Ba Er looked at Duan Lingtian that sat by the emperor's side. This young man is Duan Lingtian's junior brother? The members of the 3 great clans of the Crimson Sky Kingdom came to a sudden understanding when they heard Mou. "You are?" At the same time that Ba Er looked at Duan Lingtian, his imposing aura swept out and pressed down onto Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Ba Er. "Is it fun? Is it fun?" Ba Er was stunned. This young man actually said he was playing? But he discerned that this young man's imposing aura wasn't unusual in the slightest when facing him. Obviously, this young man's cultivation wasn't low. Since your junior brother isn't a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then the battle between him and Gulu earlier doesn't count. What do you think? Ba Er glanced deeply at Duan Lingtian before speaking slowly. "If you're unconvinced, then feel free to ask him to battle me." Duan Lingtian's tone was indifferent as if he was speaking of a matter of no importance. Ba Er frowned when he saw Duan Lingtian being so confident. In the end he nodded and looked at Gulu. "Gulu, you battle this young genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom." Ba Er understood that this was his last chance. Moreover, he didn't really dare believe that this young man that Mou addressed as senior brother would have a cultivation that was stronger than Mou. This young man's age was similar to Mou. Even though Mou addressed him as senior brother, but who knew if this was only out of courtesy and not because the young man's strength was stronger than Mou. So, no matter what, he had to give it a try. "Yes." Gulu nodded and returned to the arena once again, and he looked at Duan Lingtian with a serious expression. "Sir, please come down and provide me with your guidance." With the lesson he learned from the battle with Mou, he didn't dare underestimate his opponent because of his opponent's age. Meanwhile, Mou returned to sit by Nie Yuan's side and looked at Gulu with a mocking gaze. The emperor, Princess Bai Yao, and the members of the 3 great clans that sat by Duan Lingtian's side now looked at Duan Lingtian with interest. "Fight." Duan Lingtian glanced lazily at Gulu and said indifferently, "If you want me to fight, then we'll have to see if you have the qualifications." As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the entire scene went deathly silent. But the next battle still depends on if the opponent has the qualifications? This arrogant. Too arrogant. Only this thought remained in their hearts. Duan Lingtian has only left for a few years, yet he's actually become so arrogant? The members of the 3 great clans were dumbstruck. The emperor and Princess Bai Yao couldn't help but be stunned as well. The Duan Lingtian in their memories didn't seem to be such a person. At this moment even Nie Yuan, Mou and Mou were stunned, as they didn't know why Duan Lingtian would suddenly speak such words. Even though they knew that Duan Lingtian's strength was sufficient to crush Gulu. But he still had to leave the arena, right? Now, Duan Lingtian seemed to have no intention of leaving the arena at all. "Kid, you're too arrogant." The Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy Ba and Gulu practically spoke out at the same time, and their expressions were unsightly to the extreme. They'd seen arrogant people, Yet they'd really never seen such an arrogant person. Then I'm curious, how do you think I have the qualifications to make you leave the arena? Gulu looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold and fierce gaze. Right at the instant Gulu spoke, Duan Lingtian's eyes had already squinted, and two dim lights that were like two balls of nether flames blazed up, at the instant Gulu finished speaking. Kneel? Duan Lingtian's cold shout sounded out. An ear-piercing voice spread throughout the entire imperial garden, and it shook the eardrums of everyone present to the point of trembling intensely. The people present hadn't even recovered from their shock when they saw a scene that was unforgettable in their entire lives. Gulu, who was originally arrogant and haughty, knelt on the ground with a bang, and his body shivered as he muttered, "No, don't kill me. Don't kill me." Gulu's voice was filled with extreme terror, and it caused one's hair to stand on end upon hearing it. It was as if he'd encountered something extremely terrifying. This, besides Duan Lingtian and Gulu, who sat by the side of the emperor with calm expressions, everyone present was stunned. What's going on? Why did Gulu kneel when Duan Lingtian asked him to? Moreover, Gulu seemed to be extremely terrified when facing Duan Lingtian. No one knew what had happened. All of this had occurred too suddenly. Gulu. The expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy Bar went grim, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission into Gulu's ears with the intention of waking Gulu up. Chapter 466. Gulu. Ba-er sent a voice transmission into Gulu's ears, and when he noticed Gulu didn't move, he hurriedly shouted out with a grim voice. But no matter how he shouted, Gulu still didn't have the slightest reaction. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a gust of light breeze blew past the imperial garden, and the light breeze that was supposed to make one feel cool instead seemed to have transformed into gusts of cold wind at this moment. In the imperial garden, besides Gulu's muttering begging for mercy, only Ba-er's ceaselessly shouting out in shock could be heard. What exactly did you do to him? Ba-er's gaze moved from Gulu to Duan Lingtian as he shouted out. Ba-er's voice contained traces of trembling mixed within. At this moment, if he still didn't know that it was the young man that sat by the emperor's side that was playing tricks, then he'd have lived for so many years in vain, but this young man's ability caused him to feel a chill run down his spine. Sitting on the spot without moving in the slightest, and only a grim shout caused Gulu to kneel on the ground as if he'd been possessed, and he shivered as he ceaselessly begged for mercy. What ability is this? Demonic technique. Instantly, this thought appeared in the minds of everyone present at almost the exact same time. Once this thought appeared, it took root and sprouted, and it was difficult to get rid of. Could it be that senior brother Duan Lingtian really knows demonic techniques? The scene before him had similarly exceeded Mou's expectations. Meanwhile, Mou couldn't help but recall the scenes he saw on the life and death arena at the peak of Dubhe Peak a few days ago. The 2-year agreement between senior brother Duan Lingtian and Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master suddenly went mad, and he could only be forced to lose at the hands of Duan Lingtian. At that time, most of the members of the 7-Star Sword sect including Mou thought that Zither Young Master had really gone mad and lost his mind, and that was why he lost to Duan Lingtian. But now Mou didn't think like this. He recalled the scene from that day. When Zither Young Master left, he repeatedly said that senior brother Duan Lingtian knows demonic techniques. Looks like senior brother Duan Lingtian really knows demonic techniques. No, perhaps it's only a method that's difficult for us to understand. Mou's heart trembled as she looked at Duan Lingtian with reverence. Apart from Princess Bai Yao, the remaining people, including the Emperor and Ye Yuan and his son, felt their blood run cold when they looked at Duan Lingtian. The scene before his eyes was too bizarre. Now, do you still think I'm crazy? Duan Lingtian asked indifferently as he looked at Ba-er calmly. Now, do you still think I'm crazy? When Duan Lingtian's words entered the ears of everyone present, they couldn't help but recall what Duan Lingtian had said to Gru. If you want me to step down, then we'll have to see if you're qualified. At that time, the first thought that came to everyone's mind when they heard those words was, crazy. Duan Lingtian is too arrogant. At that time, no one thought that Duan Lingtian could defeat Gru without entering the arena. However, at that moment the crowd came to a sudden realization. So it turned out that Duan Lingtian wasn't arrogant, but really had the ability. The facts proved that Gru indeed didn't have the qualifications to make Duan Lingtian step down. Bar couldn't help but be infuriated when he heard Duan Lingtian, yet he had no way to refute. Coldness silently arose in his heart. Who exactly are you? Bar took a deep breath and asked with a low voice. Are you really from the Crimson Sky Kingdom? What? Do you want to suspect if I'm from the Crimson Sky Kingdom like you suspected my junior brother earlier? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh, and his eyes revealed a wisp of disdain. He'd always looked down upon people that couldn't afford to lose. Ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, you wouldn't be a sore loser, right? You actually dare suspect if he's from the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Perhaps you don't have any impression of the name Duan Lingtian, but you ought to have heard of our Crimson Sky Kingdom's embroidered uniform guards commander Duan a few years ago, right? You ought to have heard of our Crimson Sky Kingdom's Paladin Academy's Star Mastermind Department's genius student who planned strategies and captured the Southern Champion Kingdom's southern barbaric city without expending a single soldier, right? You ought to have heard of the peerless genius that gave rise to much discussion in our Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago, right? In the Shao clan seating area, Shao Sun looked at Bar with a face of disdain as he spoke sarcastically. Early on when Shao Sun hadn't finished speaking, the expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Bar, had already gone pale. As soon as Shao Sun finished speaking, he looked at Duan Lingtian as if he'd seen a ghost. You're the monster that was widely rumored in the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago, Duan Lingtian? No wonder I felt your name was slightly familiar when I heard them call out to you before the friendly martial competition began today. It's actually you've actually returned. When Duan Lingtian had just arrived at the Imperial Garden with the Emperor, Xiao Yu and Shao Sun had once called out his name. So Bar had an impression of him. Presently, Bar's extremely unsightly expression undoubtedly indicated that Bar had once heard of the deeds of Duan Lingtian. Moreover, he knew of the matter of Duan Lingtian leaving the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago. I never imagined that the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador would know of me. I'm truly overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Bar with a carefree expression, as if his expression wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed before him. Bar had a mournful expression. He knew clearly in his heart that he'd failed, the Sun Ascent Kingdom had failed. This plan that could be said to be perfect planned by their Sun Ascent Kingdom's emperor had completely failed because of the appearance of Duan Lingtian, an element outside the plan, a crushing defeat. Your Majesty Crimson Sky, our Sun Ascent Kingdom is willing to admit defeat. I'll return right now and ask my emperor to send over the 3 years of taxes of the Sun Ascent Kingdom. Bar took a deep breath and bowed to the emperor before intending to leave. But Gulu knelt there without moving and it caused him to have a headache. He gritted his teeth and didn't put down his pride to beg Duan Lingtian to stop in the end. He raised his hand and knocked Gulu unconscious, then carried the unconscious Gulu in high E before leaving in a sorry state with Jianghu. Ha! Most of the people on the Crimson Sky Kingdom's side, including the Emperor, couldn't help but laugh as they looked at Bar and Jianghu's sorry figures. They laughed wantonly and they laughed to the point of being elated. After a short moment, the Emperor returned to his senses, and he looked at Duan Lingtian with a complicated gaze. Commander Duan, how did you do it earlier? How did I do it? Duan Lingtian's brows raised when he heard the Emperor, and he recalled the scene from before. Earlier, when the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Gulu, spoke out to provoke him, he'd utilized his spiritual force to fuse with his soul brand and execute the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions. Once 1,000 Illusions was executed, not to mention a mere first-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Even a first-level void-prying stage martial artist that wasn't an inscription master was unable to guard against it. Of course, if it was a first-level void-prying stage martial artist, then because of the strength of the soul, even if Duan Lingtian executed the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state like Gulu. Gulu was only a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist, and before Duan Lingtian's spiritual force, his spiritual force was like the difference between a child and an adult. Duan Lingtian's spiritual force crushed his spiritual force in all directions, and Duan Lingtian could wantonly trample on him. Earlier, Duan Lingtian had precisely utilized the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions, to construct an extremely terrifying illusory space that enveloped Gulu. Within that illusory space, Gulu wasn't able to persist for a short moment before his mind completely collapsed, and he knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. When he returned to his senses, Duan Lingtian noticed that it wasn't only the Emperor, the gazes of everyone present had descended onto him in unison. Obviously they were extremely curious. I don't know how to explain that ability as well. All of you can just take it as a demonic technique. Duan Lingtian shrugged as he spoke slowly. When they saw that Duan Lingtian wasn't willing to say any more, the people present didn't ask any further. After all, everyone had their own secrets. If they got to the bottom of it, it would only cause them to feel disgusted. Alas, Big Brother Ling Tian, when will my spiritual force be able to break through to the void initiation stage? If my spiritual force is able to break through to the void initiation stage, then I'll be able to awaken my soul brand and comprehend soul skills. At that time I want to go scare people as well. The little gold mouse's innocent voice sounded out by Duan Lingtian's ears. Scare people? But when this innocent voice entered into Duan Lingtian's ears, it caused him to be unable to help but feel a chill run down his spine. This little gold mouse wasn't a good person to begin with. If it was allowed to awaken its spiritual brand and comprehend a soul skill, wouldn't its tail be raised to the heavens? I'm happy today, so I'll set up a banquet at noon to welcome Commander Duan and his junior brother, Divine Might Marquis, and everyone else. All of you stay behind and welcome Commander Duan and his junior brother. The Emperor had a brilliant smile on his face as he spoke to everyone. Yes, Your Majesty. No one would refuse the Emperor's invitation. Subsequently, the Emperor ordered the eunuchs and palace maids in the palace to prepare. After the welcome banquet, Duan Lingtian and Mou became the absolute center of attention. Especially the patriarchs of the three great clans. They even beat around the bush and asked Mou if he was married, causing Mou to flush red and be unable to answer. Senior brother Duan Lingtian, Mou could only seek help from Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian didn't even have the time to take care of himself, so how could he help Mou? Instead, he pushed Mou into a pit of fire. Mou, I think the three patriarchs are right. You're not young anymore. Even if you don't get married, it's good to get married. Right. The patriarchs of the three great clans hurriedly agreed, and the gazes they shot at Mou were simply like wolves that had seen a little lamb. Mou could only say in his heart when he saw this, I made friends carelessly. Commander Duan accompanied by Yao for a walk. The Emperor looked at Princess Bai Yao, then looked at Duan Lingtian with a complicated gaze. During these past few years, he'd wanted to find a marriage for this daughter of his many times, but this daughter of his only thought of Duan Lingtian every day. This caused him, the imperial father, to feel helpless. Chapter 467. As he walked side by side with Princess Bai Yao in the imperial palace, Duan Lingtian intentionally revealed his thoughts of not wanting Princess Bai Yao to wait for him for her entire life. Unexpectedly, Princess Bai Yao's attitude was actually exactly the same as Xiao Lan's. She had an attitude of not marrying anyone but him, and would rather wait for him for her entire life. This caused Duan Lingtian to feel a wave of helplessness. Could it be that I've really brought my charm from my previous life to this life? Duan Lingtian secretly flattered himself. In his previous life as the king of mercenaries on earth, there was never a lack of outstanding women by his side. There were some that wanted to marry him, some that wanted to bear his children, some that were willing to give up everything for him. Looks like sometimes having too much charm isn't a good thing. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart and sighed in his heart. Never mind, leave it to fate. Duan Lingtian sighed rather helplessly when faced with Princess Bai Yao's resoluteness. What ability did he possess to actually make so many outstanding women willingly be bound by him for their entire lives, and not ask for any status or reward? After the welcoming banquet ended, Duan Lingtian and Mou once again sat on the Divine Might Marquis Estate's carriage and left the imperial palace with Nie Yuan and Nie Fun. Little Tian, the ability you executed today really shocked me. But this is good as well. If you were to display the strength of a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist before the Sun Ascent Kingdom's envoy, I wonder how terrified he would be. Nie Fun looked at Duan Lingtian, and at the same time that he sighed with emotion, his gaze was extremely complicated. When he first met Duan Lingtian was only an 18-year-old youth. Compared to him, Duan Lingtian was much inferior. Now that 5 years had passed, Duan Lingtian had already surpassed him in all aspects, and had become an existence that he could only look up to. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled, then looked at the nearby Nie Yuan. Uncle Nie, you're extremely curious about the ability I executed earlier? All along the way, Duan Lingtian was able to notice Nie Yuan hesitating to speak, and he vaguely guessed Nie Yuan's thoughts. It's fine if you don't want to talk about it. Uncle Nie was just scared by you for a moment. Nie Yuan shook his head and smiled. He had no intention of forcing Duan Lingtian to speak. Actually, it's not a secret. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, and for a moment, it drew the attention of Mou and Nie Fun. Obviously, Mou and Nie Fun were extremely interested in the ability Duan Lingtian utilized against the young genius from the Sun Ascent Kingdom, Gulu. Especially Mou. At that time, he'd once seen Duan Lingtian use this method to subdue Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master, one of the most outstanding 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's younger generation, and his cultivation had already stepped into the half-step void stage. However, even so, in the face of Duan Lingtian's unpredictable methods, he still could not escape the fate of a crushing defeat. Uncle Nye, how much do you know about souls? How much do you know about spiritual power? Duan Lingtian looked at Nye Yuan and asked. Nye Yuan pondered for a short moment before continuing. The soul is the foundation of a person, and it's also where one's consciousness resides. As for spiritual power, I only know that it's closely related to inscription masters. Inscription masters precisely use spiritual power to combine with various special materials to inscribe inscriptions. Whereas spiritual power is also called the energy of the soul, and it comes from the soul. Nye Yuan said to Duan Lingtian. I only know this. Uncle Nye, you're right. This is the concept of the soul and spiritual power. But, in Cloud Continent, there are some formidable human martial artists that are able to rely on spiritual power to attack. They stand at the peak of Cloud Continent and they're called Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian spoke slowly. Emperor Wu. Nye Yuan was slightly moved when he heard Duan Lingtian, whereas Nye Fen and Mou instead had bewildered expressions. Obviously they'd never heard of any Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu really exists? Nye Yuan's breathing became hurried. Of course they exist. Duan Lingtian's eyes emitted a trace of yearning. Although there aren't many Emperor Wu experts in Cloud Continent, there aren't many. Every single one of them is an existence that stands at the peak of Cloud Continent, and they can summon clouds and rain with a flip of their hand. Their martial strength is extraordinary, and it shakes the heavens and shakes the earth. As he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian felt his blood boil, and even he was slightly excited. After all, he'd fused with the memories of a formidable Emperor Wu. Samsara Emperor Wu, the Emperor Wu expert that once stood at the peak of Cloud Continent. Father, what are you talking about with little Tian? What Emperor Wu? Nye Fen frowned and asked. Mou looked at Duan Lingtian as well. He similarly didn't understand the conversation between Duan Lingtian and Nye Yuan. Emperor Wu? What's that? Let little Tian tell you. Nye Yuan shook his head. Nye Yuan shook his head and sighed. He suddenly felt that his current knowledge seemed to be far inferior to this nephew of his. Big brother Nye, Emperor Wu is an existence that surpasses martial monarchs, whereas a martial monarch is an existence that surpasses the 4th void stage, the void transformation stage. Under Duan Lingtian's narration, Nye Fen finally had a certain level of understanding towards the peak level of cultivation in Cloud Continent. I've heard of martial monarchs, but it's the first time I've heard of Emperor Wu. I never imagined that there's an existence that surpasses martial monarchs in Cloud Continent. Nye Fen couldn't help but be moved. Mou had a face full of shock as well. Emperor Wu expert? What sort of heaven-defying existence was that? It was difficult to imagine. Little Tian, you said earlier that human martial artists are only able to execute spiritual force attacks after attaining Emperor Wu. Then what was the ability you executed earlier? Nye Yuan looked at Duan Lingtian and asked the crux of the matter. What I executed earlier wasn't a spiritual force attack, and could only be considered to be a type of spiritual force interference technique. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian spoke of everything related to the soul brand, including the fact that soul brands usually only appeared on some demon beasts and how he obtained the soul brand that day. He spoke of everything without concealing anything. Your luck is simply heaven-defying. That's a soul brand left behind by an inscription master from the foreign lands. You were actually able to encounter it. Nye Fen had an expression of envy and jealousy. Something left behind by an inscription master from the foreign lands, and an existence at the void interpretation stage at that, was actually obtained by Duan Lingtian. This luck was probably capable of causing anyone to be envious. Nye Yuan and Mou looked at Duan Lingtian with complicated gazes, and they had the same thoughts as Nye Fen, feeling that Duan Lingtian's luck was heaven-defying. Duan Lingtian recalled what happened when he obtained the soul brand left behind by that inscription master, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. At that time I'd already left that abode. Later on, it was because Elder Kong was interested in that abode that I brought him back. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have missed it. When he recalled that soul brand that almost brushed past him, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but feel a wave of lingering fear. If he didn't have that soul brand, then he wouldn't be able to master the soul skill, 1000 Illusions. If he wasn't able to master the soul skill, 1000 Illusions, then it would be impossible for him to obtain victory in the 2-year agreement with Zither Young Master. Presently, the soul skill 1000 Illusions had already become one of Duan Lingtian's great trump cards, a trump card with shocking might. In next to no time, the carriage returned to the Divine Might Marquis estate. After Duan Lingtian bid his farewells to Nye Yuan and Ye Fen, he brought Mou along to stroll around the inner city. After strolling around for a while, he returned to the courtyard house. In the following period of time, Duan Lingtian didn't take a step out of the house, and he either cultivated or accompanied his mother. His days were passed comfortably. 1 month later. Within a spacious room, Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged on the bed, and the origin energy within his body ceaselessly pulsated, circulating according to the fourth form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the Wind WRM form. At this moment, the origin energy within Duan Lingtian's body had already risen to a critical point. I hope I'll succeed this time. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath, and the origin energy within his body seemed to have transformed into tempestuous waves that fiercely collided with the final bottleneck of the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. Bang! The bottleneck loosened, yet it wasn't blasted open, and it was obviously still slightly lacking. I'll charge through it in one go. Duan Lingtian knew clearly in his heart that once he charged through this bottleneck, his cultivation would be like a carp leaping over the dragon gate, obtaining a qualitative leap. Bang! Bang! Over and over again, Duan Lingtian seemed as if he didn't know exhaustion in the slightest, and nascent nurturing pills were stuffed into his mouth one after another as if they were free. Soon. After continuing for an entire day and night, Duan Lingtian was already drenched in sweat, and his spirit was dispirited. But he still tensed his teeth and stubbornly persisted. He knew clearly in his heart that if he missed this opportunity, then his previous efforts would be wasted, and he wasn't willing to let his previous efforts go down the drain. Bang! Finally, hard work paid off. Under Duan Lingtian's tireless hard work, he finally successfully charged through the final bottleneck of the 6th level of the nascent soul stage and completed his breakthrough. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. I've finally broken through. After completing his breakthrough, Duan Lingtian opened his eyes, and his eyes flickered with an incomparably dazzling light that was bright like an array of stars. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and lightly clenched his fists, and origin energy jumped about on his fists. In an instant, 10011 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above him. Whoosh! After a short moment, Duan Lingtian flipped his palm and a ball of condensed flames ignited on his palm. Pill fire. Presently, the pill fire ignited on Duan Lingtian's hand was simply like the difference between heaven and earth when compared to the past. In the past, his pill fire was green in color. Now his pill fire was azure in color. If there were other alchemists here, they would surely be indescribably shocked when they saw the pill fire in Duan Lingtian's hand. A grade 5 pill fire appearing in the hands of a 23-year-old young man was something that was practically impossible to happen. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist. Amongst all the alchemists in Cloud Continent, there probably wasn't such a monstrous existence. Grade 5 alchemist? Duan Lingtian looked at the pill fire in his hand and a smile appeared on his face. Along with a thought in his heart, the pill fire in his palm changed, becoming raging and flamboyant, and it was a completely different extreme from the pill fire from before. Presently the flame was still azure in color, but its characteristics were completely different. Grade 5 weapon fire. I can finally refine a grade 5 spirit weapon. Chapter 468. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist and grade 5 weapons craftsman. Once news of this spread out, one could imagine that there would surely be many alchemists and weapons craftsmen that would be ashamed to the point of wanting to bang their heads against a wall and commit suicide. However, all of this was nothing to Duan Lingtian. To him, so long as his cultivation was sufficient and his origin energy satisfied the conditions, he would be able to condense a pill flame and weapon flame to the limit. Once my cultivation breaks through to the 1st level of the void prying stage, my pill flame and weapon flame can advance once more to the 4th level. At that time I'll be a grade 4 alchemist and a grade 4 weapons craftsman. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed, and his face was filled with confidence. Unfortunately, it's more difficult to advance my pill flame and weapon flame later on. Duan Lingtian sighed when he thought of the pill flame and weapon flame above the 3rd grade. Grade 4 pill flame and weapon flame could be condensed with origin energy at the 1st level of the void prying stage or above. Grade 3 pill flame and weapon flame, however, required origin energy at the 1st level of the void initiation stage or above to condense. Grade 2 pill flame and weapon flame instead required origin energy at the 1st level of the void interpretation stage or above to condense. Grade 1 pill flame and weapon flame corresponded to origin energy at the first level of the void transformation stage or above. If one wants to become a grade 1 alchemist or a grade 1 weapons craftsman, besides requiring extremely strong natural talent in alchemy and weapons crafting, one's natural talent in the martial Dao is extremely high as well. After all, if one's cultivation isn't able to break through to the void transformation stage, then it's utterly impossible to condense a grade 1 pill flame and weapon flame with origin energy. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh with emotion in his heart as he searched through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. In Cloud Continent, the reason grade 1 alchemists and grade 1 weapons craftsmen were rare was because very few people were able to obtain such high accomplishments in two fields at the same time. In the entire Cloud Continent, those that were able to become grade 1 alchemists and grade 1 weapons craftsmen were all figures that were favored by the heavens. I'm already a grade 5 alchemist now, and I'm completely capable of refining the void advancement pill myself. But the main material to refine the void advancement pill is a problem. Duan Lingtian's thoughts revolved as he thought of the void advancement pill. A void advancement pill was a grade 5 medicinal pill that was capable of assisting a half-step void stage martial artist to directly break through to the void prying stage. However, the side effects were also great. A martial artist that consumed a void advancement pill to break through to the void prying stage would never be able to break through to the void initiation stage in his entire lifetime. A person that consumes a void advancement pill to break through to the void prying stage is equivalent to cutting off the opportunity to comprehend concept. Unable to comprehend concept means unable to break through to the void initiation stage. The void shattering pill, to a certain extent, is a pill that goes against the heavens and changes one's fate. Once consumed, one has to pay an extremely high price. Now, Duan Lingtian thoroughly understood the void shattering pill by following the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. This void-shattering pill's main ingredient can be replaced with little devil wine? In next to no time, Duan Lingtian found out some things from the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. Earlier I was still thinking. It's probably difficult to find the main ingredient for the void advancement pill in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. I never imagined that Samsara Emperor Wu would help me solve it. After withdrawing his thoughts, Duan Lingtian withdrew the other materials required to refine the void advancement pill. Besides the main ingredient, the other materials were extremely ordinary, and Duan Lingtian just happened to have them in his possession. When Duan Lingtian took out the cauldron, he couldn't help but be stunned. He'd noticed an extremely important problem. A grade 5 spirit weapon cauldron was required to refine a grade 5 medicinal pill. Fortunately, the materials required to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon cauldron were in the collection of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial Palace. After the Emperor knew that Duan Lingtian needed it, he generously bestowed it to Duan Lingtian. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian refined the first grade 5 spirit weapon in his lifetime, a cauldron. Relying on the grade 5 spirit weapon cauldron, a pile of medicinal materials and little devil wine, Duan Lingtian successfully refined 3 void advancement pills. One of them was given to the Emperor by Duan Lingtian. Your Majesty, Duan Lingtian is extremely grateful to you for taking care of me all this time. This void breaker pill can be considered as a small token of my appreciation. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled as he spoke. The Emperor looked at the medicinal pill in his hand that flowed with light and was unable to recover from his shock for a long time. Void advancement pill? This is the void advancement pill? Although he was the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, the void advancement pill was similarly in existence that was out of his reach. Now it was held in his hand. Commander Duan, I really don't know how to thank you. The Emperor let out a long sigh and his gaze was complicated. Although he'd helped Duan Lingtian quite a bit as far as he was concerned, those things were utterly not worth mentioning when compared to the void advancement pill. After all, a void advancement pill was equivalent to a void prying stage martial artist. There were many half-step void stage martial artists in the Imperial Palace, but besides him, there wasn't a single void prying stage martial artist. Now that he had this void advancement pill, it also meant that another void prying stage martial artist would be born in the Imperial Palace. Duan Lingtian giving him the void advancement pill was practically equivalent to giving him a void prying stage martial artist. Your Majesty, you're too courteous. I entered the Imperial Palace this time precisely for the sake of giving this void advancement pill to Your Majesty. Now that the medicinal pill has been delivered, I ought to leave as well. Duan Lingtian bid his farewells to the Emperor before leaving the throne room and the Imperial Palace. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Duan Lingtian went to the Duan clan estate. He'd returned for over a month, and it was still the first time he'd returned to the Duan clan. When the Duan clan's patriarch Duan Ruhua heard that Duan Lingtian had arrived, he personally welcomed Duan Lingtian in. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian met the Duan clan's grand elder, Duan Zhen. The old man was in high spirits, and his elegant bearing wasn't inferior to before. "Kid, the patriarch has already told me about what happened in the imperial palace a month ago. I truly never imagined that you would have such great ability now. Right, you've gone to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, but I wonder which sect you've joined?" Duan Zhen looked at Duan Lingtian, and his muddy eyes flashed with a trace of a sheen of anticipation. "Grand Elder, wanting to know which sect I've joined is fake, and wanting to know if I've obtained a void advancement pill for the clan is the real reason, right?" Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled as he went straight to the point. This caused Duan Zhen to be extremely embarrassed. "Grand Elder, I fortunately accomplished my mission." When he saw that the time was about right, Duan Lingtian withdrew one of the 2 remaining void advancement pills in his hand and passed it to Duan Zhen. "This is the void advancement pill?" Duan Zhen received the medicinal pill that had flowing lights revolving around it from Duan Lingtian's hand, and he stared fixedly at it, his eyeballs almost popping out, and his face was filled with excitement. The nearby Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua the 4th master, Duan Ruhong, and all the other Duan clan elders stared fixedly at the medicinal pill in Duan Zhen's hand. "Void advancement pill. This is the void advancement pill? What? Grand Elder, are you worried that I'll deceive you?" Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. "Grand Elder, the purity of this void advancement pill far surpasses ordinary void advancement pills. Once a martial artist that has been at the half-step void stage for many years consumes it, there's an over 90% chance of instantly breaking through to the void prying stage." Duan Lingtian's aged body shook when he heard Duan Lingtian, and he revealed a shocked expression. Is this true? Although he'd never seen a void advancement pill, he'd heard of it. But it was still the first time he'd heard of such an abnormal void advancement pill. "If Grand Elder doesn't believe me, you can try consuming it." Duan Lingtian smiled. "Ah, all right." Under the gazes of all the Duan clan higher-ups, Duan Zhen consumed the void advancement pill and closed his eyes, after a short moment. Whoosh! It was as if a gust of wind swept out in all directions with Duan Zhen at the center, blowing the clothes of Duan Lingtian and all the Duan clan higher-ups to flutter in the wind. Meanwhile, everyone could feel that the aura on Duan Zhen's body had changed, becoming even steadier and even more unfathomable. "Grand Elder. You?" Duan Ruhua stared blankly at Duan Zhen with a face full of nervousness and anticipation. The other Duan clan higher-ups stared fixedly at Duan Zhen as well. Only Duan Lingtian sat at the side with his legs crossed as he held a teacup and drank tea. He was calm and composed as if he wasn't anxious in the slightest. "Ha!" In next to no time, Duan Zhen's hearty laughter sounded out, and his voice was like a thunderclap that shook some of the small decorations in the audience hall to the point of ceaselessly swaying, causing all the Duan clan higher-ups present to be dumbstruck. They could clearly feel the aura that swept out from Duan Zhen's body at the same time he laughed loudly. That was an aura that surpassed the half-step void stage. Void prying stage. Grand Elder has really broken through to the void prying stage. Congratulations, Grand Elder. Congratulations, Grand Elder. Instantly, all the Duan clan higher-ups from Patriarch Duan Ruhua congratulated Duan Zhen one after another. "Thank you, little fellow." Duan Zhen paid no attention to Duan Ruffing and the others. Instead, he looked at Duan Lingtian, who sat with his legs crossed and drank tea at the side, and lightly bowed. Duan Lingtian was originally leisurely drinking tea, but when he saw Duan Zhen turn around to look at him and even bow to thank him, he was frightened to the point that he hurriedly jumped away. "Grand Elder, why are you doing this? If my mother knew that I received a bow from you, wouldn't she scold me to death? Grand Elder, you can't harm me." Duan Zhen was first stunned when he saw Duan Lingtian's actions, then he couldn't help but laugh. "Don't worry, today's matter won't enter your mother's ears. If anyone dares to speak out of turn, I'll pull out their tongue." As he spoke up to hear, Duan Zhen's gaze flashed past all the Duan clan higher-ups. Even Patriarch Duan Ruhua wasn't let off. This caused all the Duan clan higher-ups to not know whether to laugh or cry. However, in next to no time, the gazes of these Duan clan higher-ups descended onto Duan Lingtian, and their eyes flickered with an unusual sheen. "Don't look at me, I only have the void-cleaving pellet that the great elder took. It was that void-cleaving pellet that I begged my master for many years. He was really impatient, so he went to ask a fifth-grade alchemist to refine it." How could Duan Lingtian not know what they were thinking when he saw the burning gazes of the Duan clan higher-ups, and he shrugged as he spread out his hands. This caused everyone to feel a wave of disappointment. Grand Elder, if there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave first. Duan Lingtian put down his teacup and smiled to Duan Zhen. Little fellow, the Duan clan will always remember what you've done for the Duan clan. The Duan clan has let you and your mother down for what happened that year. From today onwards, the Duan clan will spare no effort to repay you double what we owe you all these years. Duan Zhen spoke with a serious expression. Chapter 469. I wish all my brothers and sisters a happy new year. Grand Elder, you're too kind. Duan Lingtian didn't take Duan Zhen's heartfelt words seriously. He'd utterly never thought of asking the Duan clan to repay him and his mother. He gave the Duan clan a void advancement pill today only for the sake of the agreement he made with the Duan clan that day, and it was only a dispute of interest. He was only fulfilling his promise from that day. The Duan clan was cold and indifferent, he'd seen through it long ago. After leaving the Duan clan, Duan Lingtian went to the Divine Might Marquis estate and gave the last void advancement pill in his possession to Nie Yuan. Little Tian, what's this? Nie Yuan looked at the medicinal pill that Duan Lingtian passed over with a puzzled expression as he asked curiously. The medicinal pill flowed with a flowing light, and it was obvious with a single glance that it wasn't an ordinary item. Uncle Nie, this is a void advancement pill. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Nie Yuan was instantly stunned when he heard this. Then he said with an excited expression, This? Little Tian, where did you get this void advancement pill? If I said I refined it myself, would you believe me, Uncle Nie? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he asked. Nie Yuan's excited expression was instantly dumbstruck, and he stared blankly at Duan Lingtian. Little Tian, this void advancement pill was refined by you yourself? This is a grade 5 medicinal pill. Only a grade 5 alchemist is capable of refining a grade 5 medicinal pill. As Nie Yuan finished speaking, his tone had traces of trembling mixed within. Even though he'd been shocked by Duan Lingtian quite a bit in the past. But now he still didn't dare believe it. Grade 5 alchemist. Up until now, not even a grade 5 alchemist had appeared in their Crimson Sky Kingdom. Even the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Alchemist Guild's Guild Master, an existence that came from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, was only a grade 6 alchemist. Duan Lingtian naturally guessed Nie Yuan's thoughts when he saw Nie Yuan's expression, and he lightly smiled. With a flip of his palm, a strand of azure-colored flames burned out from the center of his palm. Grade 5. Grade 5 pill fire. Although Nie Yuan had never seen a rank 5 alchemist before, he had never seen a rank 5 alchemy fire before. However, even if he hadn't eaten pork, he would still have seen a pig run. He had once read about the pill fire in an ancient book. As far as he knew, a grade 5 pill fire was cyan in color. Along with Duan Lingtian withdrawing his hand, Nie Yuan was stunned for a long time before returning to his senses, and he looked at Duan Lingtian as if he was looking at a freak. Little Tian. No wonder that kid Niefan said you're a freak amongst freaks, a freak amongst freaks. Now it would seem that what he said wasn't completely unreasonable. Duan Lingtian never would have thought that Nie Yuan would squeeze out such a sentence after holding it in for a long time, and he was instantly speechless. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist. If news of this were to spread out, not to mention our Crimson Sky Kingdom, even the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Darkstone Empire, and even the Dark Han Dynasty would probably be shocked. Nie Yuan shook his head and sighed, and his gaze was extremely complicated. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. Dark Han Dynasty? Not to mention the Dark Han Dynasty, even in the entire foreign lands, it was very unlikely for a 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist to appear. At least, the Samsara Emperor Wu had experienced 2 lifetimes and encountered countless grade 5 alchemists. But the youngest one was already over 30 years old. According to the memories of the Samsara Emperor Wu, that 30-year-old grade 5 alchemist had already become a grade 2 alchemist before he relied on the 3 lives rebirth technique to undergo his second lifetime of rebirth. The natural talent of that alchemist could be imagined. Supposedly, a grade 5 pill fire requires the origin energy of a 7th level nascent soul stage martial artist or above to condense it. Little Tian, could it be that you? Nie Yuan looked at Duan Lingtian as if he wanted to confirm something. Uncle Nie, your guess is correct. I've already broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Lingtian nodded and smiled to Nie Yuan as he spoke. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Nie Yuan's mood that had calmed down was once again in turmoil after he obtained Duan Lingtian's confirmation. If your father was still alive and knew that he had such a promising son like you, he'd probably be able to wake up from his sleep with a smile. Nie Yuan took a deep breath before sighing. Duan Lingtian's brows raised. That deadbeat father of his? When he left the Divine Might Marquis estate, Duan Lingtian had a heavy load on his mind, and he directly went to look for Li Ro after he returned to the courtyard house. Mother, do you know where father went all those years ago? Duan Lingtian asked bluntly. Tian, why are you suddenly asking this? Li Ro was slightly bewildered. I want to go there and take a look. Perhaps I'll be able to confirm if father is still alive. Duan Lingtian spoke with a serious expression. No. Li Ro's face went grim as she directly rejected Duan Lingtian's idea. You can't go there, absolutely not. At this moment, Li Ro's expression was serious and incomparably resolute. The more Li Ro was like this, the more curious Duan Lingtian was in his heart. Mother, exactly what sort of place is that? Tian, no matter what, you can't go to that place. Mother has already lost your father, I can't lose you as well. Li Ro spoke seriously. Mother, what are you talking about? You won't lose me. Duan Lingtian shook his head and felt that his mother was worrying too much. Mother, when father went to that place that day, his cultivation had only just broken through to the nascent soul stage not long ago. Now, my strength isn't inferior to father from all those years ago, and I won't be in danger. No. Li Ro was unprecedentedly stubborn. Tian, mother knows that you want to find your father. But how could mother not want to as well? It was just that that place was really too strange. That year, after your father went missing for the sake of finding him, the Duan clan sent out a half-step void stage ancestor to personally head to that place. But later on, even someone as strong as that ancestor completely vanished without a trace, as if he'd completely evaporated into thin air. As she finished speaking, Li Ro's eyes revealed a wisp of terror. Even a half-step void stage existence that entered that place didn't return? At this moment, Duan Lingtian's heart itched even more unbearably. Of course, he'd realized that place wasn't simple. A place that's able to make a half-step void stage expert not return. Exactly what sort of place is it? Mother, I know. I never imagined that place would be so terrifying. Don't worry, I won't go. Duan Lingtian pretended to have a lingering fear as he spoke. Li Ro's face finally revealed a smile once again, but Duan Lingtian was instead able to perceive that this smile was forced. Looks like mother is thinking of that deadbeat father of mine again. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. I'll go find out where that place is in the next few days. After that, I'll stay at home for a period of time before leaving. Otherwise, I'll surely arouse mother's suspicion. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart and made a decision. He promised his mother earlier that he wouldn't go to that place, and it was only an expedient measure. He didn't want his mother to be worried. No matter what, he was going to that place for sure. With little gold here, I don't believe that within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, there's a place that I, Duan Lingtian, can't enter. A wisp of a bright light flashed within the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes. Little Gold, a third-level void-prying stage demon beast that had even comprehended half-step advanced lightning force. Even in the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom, it could be considered to be a top-rate existence. The next day, Duan Lingtian went to the Divine Might Marquis estate and looked for Nie Yuan. Uncle Nie, do you know where my father went missing all those years ago? Duan Lingtian went straight to the point. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Nie Yuan's face went grim. Little Tian, you absolutely can't go to that place. Uncle Nie, I'm only curious and don't plan on going. Duan Lingtian was speechless, as he never imagined that Nie Yuan's reaction would be as intense as his mother's. Of course, he knew that Nie Yuan was concerned about him and didn't have any other intentions. Nie Yuan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. It's good that you don't plan on going. Even if a void-prying stage martial artist enters that place, they might not be able to come out alive. All those years ago, a Duan clan expert that had half a foot into the void-prying stage entered that place, and just like your father, he vanished without a trace and vanished from the face of the earth. Duan Lingtian nodded as he found out about this from his mother yesterday. Before long, under Nie Yuan's narration, Duan Lingtian found out about the place his deadbeat father went missing all those years ago. That place was a swamp. It was called the Swamp of Death by the people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Supposedly, fierce beasts were everywhere in the Swamp of Death, and there were even many formidable demon beasts in the depths of the Swamp of Death. However, the most terrifying thing in the Swamp of Death wasn't these beasts but the swamp. If a person didn't step on the swamp when entering the Swamp of Death, the person would be utterly unable to notice the existence of the swamp. Many martial artists that entered the swamp of death didn't even have the time to go deep before falling into the swamp and becoming nutrients for the earth within the swamp of death. The swamp of death. Duan Lingtian's eyes flickered and were filled with yearning. Perhaps to other martial artists, the swamp of death is an elusive hell. But under my spiritual force, it's a flat ground that has nowhere to hide. Even if the swamp is invisible to the naked eye, I can still use my spiritual force to sense it. Duan Lingtian was extremely confident about this. In the following 10 days, Duan Lingtian accompanied by the side of his mother, Li Ro. 10 days later, Duan Lingtian bid his farewells to Li Ro before leaving the imperial city. He didn't bring along black jade when he left the imperial city this time, and only brought along the little gold mouse. In front of Li Ro, he said that he was returning to Aurora City to visit an old friend. Li Ro didn't doubt him. The Swamp of Death was located in the Fair Sun County at the east of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and it wasn't far from the Imperial City. With the speed of the little gold mouse, Duan Lingtian only spent an hour to arrive in the sky above the Fair Sun County's county city. The Swamp of Death was precisely located in the area north of the Fair Sun County's county city. Fair Sun County? It seems slightly familiar. I seem to have heard of it somewhere. As he sat on the back of the little gold mouse and looked down at the Fair Sun County city below, Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. He could be sure that he'd never come to Fair Sun County in the past, and this was the first time he'd come here. If you can't remember, then don't think about it. Little gold, go over there. Duan Lingtian pointed towards the north as he spoke to the little gold mouse that had grown larger. Squeak, squeak. Chapter 470. This is the Swamp of Death? The little gold mouse's speed was extremely swift, and it quickly carried Duan Lingtian to arrive outside a vast and serene forest. This forest was extremely dilapidated, and it emitted waves of ghastly aura. Not only that, the sky above this forest was coiled with black mist all year long, and it enveloped the entire forest within, causing others to not dare rashly enter the sky above the forest. After all, no one knew if some formidable fierce beasts or demon beasts were concealed within the black mist above the forest. The fierce beasts and demon beasts that lived here were surely extremely familiar with the environment here, and outsiders would surely suffer a loss if they trespassed here. Little gold, go down. Duan Lingtian called out to the little gold mouse to go down, and after he made the little gold mouse shrink, he seriously sized up the forest before him. Unlike the verdant trees of ordinary forests, the trees in this forest were either pitch-black withered trees or dark gray withered trees. The leaves that grew out of these withered trees only had these two colors, and it set off the entire forest to seem extremely strange. There wasn't the slightest trace of human habitation in the surroundings of the forest. As expected of the Swamp of Death that even void-prying stage martial artists go pale when they talk about it, it's simply an isolated place. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. Little gold, let's go in. Duan Lingtian brought along the little gold mouse to walk into this strange forest, whereas Duan Lingtian's spiritual force maintained its extension as it carefully investigated the surrounding situation. At the beginning, Duan Lingtian only heard waves of unpleasant cries of crows all along the way. He didn't notice a swamp. Squeak, squeak, the little gold mouse stood on Duan Lingtian's shoulder, and when she heard the waves of crows' cries, she seemed to be slightly impatient, and she opened her throat and cried out sharply. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Sharp cries carried origin energy as they tore through the sky. Instantly, a wave of impatient crows' cries sounded out. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian heard a wave of clamorous sounds of flapping wings that gradually faded away. The crows' cries stopped abruptly. Creak, creak. After driving away the crowd of crows, the little gold mouse was slightly complacent, and she sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. Big brother Lingtian, I'm formidable, right? Duan Lingtian rolled its eyes. It's just a bunch of wild crows. Look at how proud you are. When the little gold mouse heard this, its small head drooped down listlessly. Duan Lingtian continued to head into the Swamp of Death. About half an hour later, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy finally sensed the location of the swamp. Duan Lingtian gave way to these swamps and walked all the way inside. At this time, ferocious beasts began to rush out from the side and sneak attack Duan Lingtian. Creak. However, before these ferocious beasts could get close to Duan Lingtian, with a sudden cry, their bodies were penetrated by a fine sword light, and they were killed on the spot. The little gold mouse stood on Duan Lingtian's shoulder and held a pocket-sized spirit sword in her hand as she vigilantly sized up the surroundings. The deeper I go, the more swamps there are. Unless an ordinary human martial artist breaks through to the void prying stage, otherwise, it's extremely difficult to go around these swamps. Duan Lingtian had a certain level of understanding towards the death swamp as he walked all the way here. Of course, he knew that this was only the outer area of the death swamp. That deadbeat father of mine wouldn't have lost his footing in these swamps, right? When Duan Lingtian thought up to here, he felt a chill run down his spine. If that deadbeat father of his was really swallowed by the swamps, then he would really be dead without a corpse. Little Gold, I'll speed up and walk deeper in. If there are any ferocious beasts or demon beasts that attack me, you deal with them. After Duan Lingtian spoke to the little gold mouse, the origin energy between his legs raged. Creak creak, when he heard the little gold mouse's reply, Duan Lingtian moved. Whirlwind. As Duan Lingtian's figure shook, he seemed to have transformed into a gale, and in the sky above him, 1,211 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out along with him. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Elementary wind force. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was heading towards the death swamp at full speed. Whereas the ferocious beasts he encountered all along the way became stronger and stronger. However, no matter how strong a ferocious beast was, it was only a ferocious beast after all, and before Little Gold, a 3rd level void prying stage demon beast, it couldn't withstand a single blow. Roar. Along with Duan Lingtian's spiritual force tightening in the next moment, Duan Lingtian saw an enormous ferocious beast open its bloody mouth and pounce towards him. This was a beast-type ferocious beast that was extremely ugly, and Duan Lingtian was unable to recognize it. Half-step void stage. Duan Lingtian stopped moving and his brows raised. When the ferocious beast pounced over, the 1,500 ancient mammoth silhouettes in the sky flashed towards Duan Lingtian along with it. However, Duan Lingtian wasn't worried. Creak creak. The little gold mouse cried out, and a sword light flashed out from the spirit sword in her hand, directly penetrating the head of this half-step void stage ferocious beast, causing it to be brought along by inertia to fall to the ground and completely lose all signs of life. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart as he looked at the scene before him. A few years ago, when he hadn't left the Crimson Sky Kingdom and headed to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. An existence at the half-step void stage was an existence that was difficult to surpass to him, but now it was utterly not worth mentioning. Every dog has its day. These words aren't wrong in the slightest. Duan Lingtian shook his head and continued walking towards the death swamp. Meanwhile, he slowed down his speed. Because he knew that he'd already entered the core area of the death swamp. There would probably be demon beasts roaming about in this area. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian's guess was correct. After slowly walking forward for half an hour, a demon beast that was completely covered in scales flashed out from a nearby swamp, and it seemed to have transformed into a sharp light that fiercely pierced towards Duan Lingtian. In the sky, 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed towards Duan Lingtian with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Creak. The little gold mouse that stood on Duan Lingtian's shoulder leaped up and transformed into a golden bolt of lightning that carried along a wave of rushing thunder as it moved to intercept this first-level void-prying stage demon beast that attacked Duan Lingtian. Swish. A sword howl tore through the sky as sword lights flashed past to descend onto the scales on the demon beast, emitting an ear-piercing sound of iron colliding. This scale armor has such a strong defense. Duan Lingtian was shocked. Right at the instant that Duan Lingtian was shocked, the little gold mouse had already attacked a second time, piercing through the demon beast's abdomen and killing it. Only the demon beast's abdomen wasn't protected by its scale armor. Its abdomen was its weakest point. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse returned to Duan Lingtian's shoulder and asked for credit from Duan Lingtian. Big brother Lingtian, I'm formidable, right? Even though this demon beast's strength is far inferior to me, the scales on its body are extremely hard. I attacked with my full strength, yet I was actually unable to break open its scales. Duan Lingtian's gaze squinted when he heard this, and only now did he notice that besides an injury on the demon beast's abdomen, the demon beast that was killed by Little Gold didn't have any other signs of being injured. This demon beast. Duan Lingtian squatted down and looked at the white mark left behind by Little Gold's sword on the demon beast's scale armor, and at the same time he searched through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. Finally, Duan Lingtian recognized this demon beast. It's actually a red-armored beast. Duan Lingtian's eyes glowed. Squeak squeak, The little gold mouse looked at Duan Lingtian in bewilderment. Little Gold, this red armored beast is an extremely rare demon beast. Give me your spirit sword. Duan Lingtian spoke to the little gold mouse, then took the little gold mouse's spirit sword. Subsequently, a grade 5 artifact flame lit up in Duan Lingtian's hand, and he pressed it onto the scales on the surface of the red armored beast. After 15 minutes, the scales showed signs of melting. After an hour, a section of the scales was burned off by Duan Lingtian, and it transformed into a pool of liquid. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and withdrew a pile of equipment refinement materials from his spatial ring, then he used the artifact flame to melt them all into liquid. In the end, Duan Lingtian used the scales of the red armored beast and a pile of equipment refinement materials to successfully upgrade the little gold mouse's grade 6 spirit sword to a grade 5 spirit sword. Try it. Duan Lingtian returned the spirit sword to the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse's jade-green eyes shone as she received the spirit sword and started swinging it. Origin energy suffused the spirit sword. Whoosh! Instantly, 4,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above the little gold mouse, and then another 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside these ancient mammoth silhouettes. In other words, the grade 5 spirit sword in the little gold mouse's hand contained the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths. An amplification of 50%. Not bad. Duan Lingtian nodded in satisfaction. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse's eyes flickered and she was extremely excited. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian withdrew his violet myrtle flexible sword, and he relied on the scales of the red armored beast to upgrade it to a grade 5 spirit sword. After the violet myrtle flexible sword was upgraded, its amplification was the same as the grade 5 spirit sword in the little gold mouse's hand. It was able to amplify strength by 50%. The scales of this red armored beast are good stuff. The artifact flame in Duan Lingtian's hand raged, and he quickly plucked off the remaining scales on the red armored beast before putting it away in his spatial ring. The scales of this red armored beast were special materials to refine grade 5 spirit weapons. Let's go. After he finished dealing with it, Duan Lingtian brought the little gold mouse along and continued walking in. All along the way they encountered a few more demon beasts, and without exception, all of them died under the little gold mouse's sword. Presently, the strength of the little gold mouse had attained the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths through the amplification of the grade 5 spirit sword. If she utilized her half-step advanced lightning force, she would be able to exert the strength of 6,500 ancient mammoths. In terms of strength, it was comparable to the 4th level void prying stage demon beast that had comprehended half-step advanced force. If the force comprehended by the 4th level void prying stage demon beast was inferior to the little gold mouse's half-step advanced lightning force, then its strength would even be inferior to the little gold mouse. After all, ordinary demon beasts didn't possess spirit weapons. Of course, although demon beasts didn't possess spirit weapons to rely on, some demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent had their own advantages. Just like the red armored beast. Its entire body of scales was something that even Little Gold, who utilized a grade 6 spirit sword, was unable to break open. In the end, it was Little Gold who found its weakness and killed it. Squeak squeak. Chapter 471. Little Gold, what's wrong? Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse on his shoulder with a bewildered expression as he asked curiously. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse raised her little head and looked towards the distance on the right. Duan Lingtian followed the little gold mouse's gaze and looked over, and he saw an expanse of black mist coiled around there, causing him to be utterly unable to see clearly what was there. Did you notice something? Duan Lingtian's spiritual force stretched over, yet it felt as if a stone had sunk into the ocean, and he didn't notice anything. Big brother Lingtian, didn't you notice it? The aura emitted from there is too terrifying. The little gold mouse's young and tender voice entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. It contained a trace of terror mixed within. I didn't. Duan Lingtian shook his head, then walked over curiously, and his entire body fused into the black mist. Duan Lingtian's vision was obstructed within the black mist, and he could only use his spiritual force to feel the way ahead. But spiritual force wasn't eyes after all, and it could only tell Duan Lingtian if there was a swamp ahead, and it was unable to guide the way for Duan Lingtian. Big brother Lingtian to the right. Fortunately, the little gold mouse's voice sounded out in time, allowing Duan Lingtian to stop being a blind person. Under the little gold mouse's guidance, Duan Lingtian arrived at the side of a strange enormous pit. This was an enormous pit that was so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen, and black mist coiled around it, causing it to be impossible to see the bottom. "Hey!" Duan Lingtian shouted towards the enormous pit, and after a few breaths of time, his reply sounded out. "So deep." Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted. "Big brother Lingtian, it's inside." The little gold mouse's voice transmission seemed to contain a trace of trembling mixed within. "That aura that caused you to be afraid came from within this enormous pit?" Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse and frowned. "Little gold, you wouldn't have sensed wrongly, right?" The little gold mouse shook her head. "No. It's inside. Big brother Lingtian, if you don't believe me, I'll bring you down to have a look." After the little gold mouse finished speaking, it turned into the size of a small mountain. "Yes." Duan Lingtian nodded. The little gold mouse's words had aroused his curiosity, and he really wanted to know what was inside this enormous pit that could actually cause the little gold mouse that wasn't afraid of anything to feel fear. In his opinion, this was an inconceivable matter. The enormous pit was very large, and it could completely accommodate the little gold mouse's enlarged body. The little gold mouse carried Duan Lingtian and slowly descended into the enormous pit. Not there yet? After 15 minutes, Duan Lingtian noticed that the little gold mouse was still slowly descending, and he couldn't help but ask. "So?" The little gold mouse spoke via voice transmission. Finally, after another 10+ breaths of time, the little gold mouse's speed finally slowed down. "Big brother Lingtian, look." Under the little gold mouse's guidance, Duan Lingtian looked down. With just a glance, he could see that in the dark pit on one side of the wall, there was actually a cave that could accommodate an adult. To be more precise, it was a cave passage. In next to no time, a flower at the side of the cave passage attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. This was a flower that was pitch black like ink, and because of its color, it practically merged into one with the wall of the enormous pit. Because of the distance earlier, Duan Lingtian hadn't noticed it. Now, along with the little gold mouse stopping, Duan Lingtian just happened to be at the same height as the entrance of the cave passage, and he was able to clearly see the outline of this black flower. Following the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, Duan Lingtian recognized this flower. Serene Sirius. Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted, as he never imagined that this was the Serene Sirius. Although it was the first time he'd seen the Serene Sirius, it wasn't the first time he'd heard of it. All those years ago his mother, Li Ro, had told him about it. 20+ years ago, his cheapskate father, Duan Ruffing, had entered deep into the swamp of death precisely for the sake of the Serene Sirius. Until now there was no news of him. Now 20 years had passed and he'd actually encountered the Serene Sirius. "It's really an unintentional willow that grows into a shade." Duan Lingtian revealed a bitter smile, then conveniently plucked the Serene Sirius. The Serene Sirius was an incomparably precious medicinal material. It was priceless. The refinement of many special medicinal pills more or less required the use of it. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian observed the entrance of the cave passage for a while longer, and after he noticed that there was nothing else, his figure flashed and he entered the cave passage. At this time, the little gold mouse shrunk once more and followed him into the cave passage before descending onto Duan Lingtian's shoulder. "What is this place?" Duan Lingtian walked into the cave passage, and it became darker and darker, to the point he couldn't even see his own fingers. With a raise of his hand, the weapon flame in Duan Lingtian's hand raged and jumped up, illuminating the entire cave. After walking along the cave passage for an entire hour, Duan Lingtian was slightly impatient. What the hell is this place? All along the way Duan Lingtian could feel that the terrain was constantly lowering. His initial estimation was that he was now at a depth of 1,000 meters underground. "Big brother Lingtian, that aura is getting closer and closer," the little gold mouse's voice sounded out, causing Duan Lingtian to heave a sigh of relief. There was finally hope. Finally, another half an hour passed and Duan Lingtian turned a corner and noticed that a white dot of light had appeared before him. "That's the exit?" Duan Lingtian thought in his heart, and the speed of his feet increased. Finally, the white dot of light before his eyes gradually enlarged, and Duan Lingtian finally walked out of the cave passage and entered a space that was as bright as day. Accurately speaking, this was a space that was similar to a palace hall. The hall was dazzling as if it was an underground palace that was inlaid into the ground. On the ceiling, 9 enormous luminous pearls were inlaid, and the light of the hall came from them. Any one of these luminous pearls is at least double the size of the one that the patriarch of the Phoenix Nest City's Chang clan gave me back then. Any one of these luminous pearls is priceless. At the same time that Duan Lingtian gasped, his eyes glowed. Finally, Duan Lingtian's gaze moved away from the 9 luminous pearls and descended into the hall. At the side of the hall, a skeleton laid there, and it attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. The skeleton wore a set of clothes that ought to have experienced countless years and become extremely tattered. From the thick bones of the skeleton, one could discern that this skeleton belonged to a man. Who is this? Why is it here? Duan Lingtian was curious in his heart and carefully sized it up. In next to no time he noticed that the sternum of this skeleton was actually shattered, as if it was shattered by a palm strike of someone's hand. Big brother Lingtian, what's this? The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears in a timely manner. Only now did Duan Lingtian notice that the little gold mouse had unknowingly left his shoulder and descended to the side of the skeleton. Presently, she was grabbing out a command token that was suffused with dust from the waist of the skeleton. Duan Lingtian's face went ghastly pale when he saw this command token. On the front of the command token, the word, Duan, was clearly inscribed. It's the Duan clan's command token. Duan Lingtian grabbed the command token, then took a deep breath before turning it over. On it, the word, direct, was so conspicuous. Duan clan direct descendant disciple. Duan Lingtian had seen this type of command token before. The Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, Grand Elder, Duan Zhen, and the Duan clan's 4th master, Duan Ruhong, all carried them on their person. It was the command token that all direct descendant disciples of the Duan clan wore. Could it be? After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian's heartbeat abruptly sped up, and his gaze once again descended onto the skeleton before him. Could it be that this is my deadbeat father, Duan Ruffing? For a time, a wisp of a bitter smile appeared on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth. If this skeleton was really his deadbeat father, then although he wouldn't be sad, he couldn't avoid being slightly disappointed. After all, his mother had always firmly believed that his deadbeat father was still alive. Squeak squeak, right at this moment the little gold mouse cried out once more. Big brother Lingtian, a spatial ring? It's a spatial ring. When he heard the little gold mouse's voice transmission, Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the right hand of the skeleton before him, and on the right hand of the skeleton was a dark copper spatial ring. After removing the spatial ring, Duan Lingtian dripped his blood on it to establish ownership. I hope there's something within this spatial ring that can prove the identity of this skeleton, Duan Lingtian thought in his heart, and his mood became even more perturbed. What he was most worried about now was that this skeleton was really his deadbeat father, and once it was confirmed, he didn't know how sad his mother would be. Even if it's confirmed that he's really my deadbeat father, I still want to keep this secret to myself. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and thought to himself. He didn't want his mother to be sad. At least, there was still a trace of hope in his mother's heart. Allowing this trace of hope to accompany his mother for her entire life would perhaps be the best choice. With a command in his heart, Duan Lingtian looked through the things within the spatial ring. In next to no time his gaze lit up. A letter. There's actually a letter within this spatial ring. No matter if this letter was written by someone to the owner of the spatial ring or written by the owner of the spatial ring to someone else, it would surely have a signature. With a raise of his hand, a letter appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. This was a letter that had been opened. It ought to have been written by someone to the original owner of this spatial ring. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart as he opened the letter and started reading it. The opening of the letter was the address that someone addressed the original owner of the spatial ring. Duan Yu? When Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the words Lord Duan Yu, at the beginning of the letter, his gaze abruptly focused. Duan Yu. A direct descendant of the Duan clan. Could it be that he's the half-step void stage martial artist of the Duan clan that came to the Swamp of Death to look for my deadbeat father all those years ago? This thought arose within Duan Lingtian's heart at the first possible moment. After this thought arose, he was even more convinced. No matter if it's him or not, I can be sure of one thing: this skeleton doesn't belong to my deadbeat father. Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief and rejoiced. Although he didn't know what his deadbeat father encountered all those years ago, since he didn't see the skeleton now, it meant that there was still a possibility that his deadbeat father was still alive. Of course, it was also possible that he was swallowed by the swamp. But it was only a possibility. Little Gold, the aura you spoke of earlier that caused you to be afraid came from here? Chapter 472. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse hurriedly nodded, then jumped to the side of the audience hall and pointed at a broken stone tablet that had fallen on the ground as she said via voice transmission. Big brother Ling Tian, that aura was here earlier. But not long after we entered, that aura vanished as if it had concealed itself. So strange? Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard the little gold mouse's voice transmission, and he walked over to the broken stone tablet in large strides. This stone tablet. Duan Ling Tian squatted down and wanted to lift up the stone tablet, yet he noticed that this tiny stone tablet seemed to be connected to the audience hall. But the spiritual force that Duan Ling Tian stretched out instead told him that this broken stone tablet was separated from the audience hall. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath as the muscles on his entire body bulged out, and his hands grabbed onto the stone tablet. Subsequently, his entire strength exploded out. However, even then, his strength of 1,011 ancient mammoths was still unable to move the stone tablet in the slightest. Exactly how heavy is this stone tablet? Duan Ling Tian was astounded. He stretched out his hand to knock on the stone tablet, then flashed through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, yet in the end he still didn't find any clues related to the material of the stone tablet. In other words, even if Samsara Emperor Wu was still alive, he would similarly be unable to recognize the material used to forge this stone tablet. According to the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, even the heaviest rock in Cloud Continent was far from being as heavy as this broken stone tablet before him. This stone tablet was only such a small piece, yet it was already heavy to the point that Duan Ling Tian was unable to move it in the slightest. Little Gold, see if you're able to move this stone tablet. Duan Ling Tian looked at the little gold mouse that stood at the side. As far as he was concerned, Little Gold was a third-level void-prying stage demon beast, and her strength was much stronger than him. The little gold mouse hurriedly ran over when she heard this. But even if the little gold mouse's strength of 4,000 ancient mammoths as a third-level void-prying stage demon beast exploded out, she was similarly unable to move this stone tablet in the slightest. Exactly what stone tablet is this? Seeing this, Duan Ling Tian gasped. After all, the strength of an ancient mammoth was equivalent to a strength of 5,000 kilograms. The strength of 4,000 ancient mammoths, it was equivalent to 40 million gene of strength. 40 million gene of strength, what kind of concept was that? If converted to the unit of weight of ton in his previous life, that would be 20,000 tons of force. This stone tablet weighs more than 20,000 tons? Looking at the stone tablet in front of him, Duan Ling Tian was completely dumbfounded. Creak, creak. Right at this moment, the little gold mouse's enraged cry sounded out by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Whoosh. Following that, he saw a ray of sword light flying over and crashing into the stone tablet. It was precisely the little gold mouse's full strength that utilized the strength of her entire body, the grade 5 spirit weapon, and the half-step advanced lightning force to attack the stone tablet. Boom. The sword strike that contained the strength of 6,500 ancient mammoths smashed onto the stone tablet, and the terrifying force swept up the dust on the floor of the hall. Creak, creak. Along with the dust being obliterated, the little gold mouse's helpless cry sounded out. Duan Ling Tian looked at the stone tablet and his eyes stared wide open, and he was extremely shocked. Exactly what material is this stone tablet made of? A sword strike that contained the strength of 6,500 ancient mammoths actually didn't leave behind the slightest mark when blasted onto it. After all, even if the hardness of the crimson armored beast's scales was heaven-defying, the little gold mouse's sword strike had left behind an obvious white mark after all. But now, the little gold mouse's full strength didn't leave behind the slightest mark on the stone tablet. Big brother Ling Tian, this stone tablet is too hard. I can't do anything about it. The little gold mouse drooped her little head, and after she put away the grade 5 spirit sword, she stood dejectedly at the side. I've discerned it. Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly, then stretched out his hand to pat the stone tablet, yet didn't notice anything wrong. The stone tablet was completely icy cold, and rows of extremely strange words were inscribed on it, and Duan Ling Tian was unable to recognize a single one of them. What language are these words? They don't seem to be the common language of Cloud Continent now. With no other choice, Duan Ling Tian could only search through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. But, according to the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, even if Samsara Emperor Wu had experienced 2 lifetimes, he still hadn't seen this type of language. Even Samsara Emperor Wu hasn't seen this type of language. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be astounded, as he could realize that this stone tablet wasn't simple. Looking at the gap on this stone tablet, a small half of it ought to be missing. Duan Ling Tian placed his hand on the stone tablet, and it was icy cold to the touch, as if he was touching a block of ice. Finally, Duan Lingtian couldn't endure it any longer, and his soul force swept out to envelop the broken stone tablet, as he wanted to see if he could use his spiritual force to sense the profundity of this stone tablet. Right at the instant Duan Lingtian's spiritual force touched the stone tablet, an unexpected event occurred abruptly. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian only felt a gust of cold wind assault him, followed by his spiritual force trembling. A spiritual force that was strong to the point of suffocation gushed out from the stone tablet along with his spiritual force and swept through his soul. A trace of despair arose within Duan Lingtian's heart without any warning. This was the despair that arose within his subconscious. The despair that arose when facing an unparalleled existence. The strength of this spiritual force had completely exceeded the scope of his understanding. Even the spiritual force of Elder Kong from the Phoenix Nest City's city governor's estate wasn't worth mentioning when compared to this spiritual force. It was like the difference between the earth and the sky. Even when Samsara Emperor Wu was at his prime, his spiritual force might not be so strong. In an instant, many thoughts flashed within Duan Lingtian's mind. Who the hell are you? Duan Lingtian's spiritual force trembled as he communicated with the strong spiritual force that came into contact with his spiritual force. Presently, their spiritual forces had fused together, and they could communicate with each other with a single thought. To be more precise, the thing that was sweeping towards his soul through his spiritual energy should be an extremely powerful soul. This feeling now was something Duan Lingtian was extremely familiar with. At that time, when he just arrived in this world from Earth and possessed Duan Lingtian's body, the soul of Samsara Emperor Wu that concealed within the depths of Duan Lingtian's soul had once given him a similar feeling. But at this instant he even had a clear intuition. Even the soul of Samsara Emperor Wu from that time seemed to be far from being as strong as the soul that swept over now. Samsara Emperor Wu was an existence that stood at the peak of Cloud Continent. His soul had experienced 2 lifetimes and was even tempered to an extremely terrifying degree. During his second lifetime, there wasn't even an expert like Emperor Wu that was able to withstand a single spiritual force attack of his. The strength of Samsara Emperor Wu's soul is obvious. Could it be that it's my misconception? As soon as this thought arose in Duan Lingtian's mind, he felt the extremely strong soul had already entered his mind. At the same time, a sonorous and ghastly voice entered into Duan Lingtian's soul. You can only blame yourself for being unlucky. If it wasn't for your soul's energy touching the Devil Seal tablet, it would be impossible for my main soul to leave the Devil Seal tablet. I really have to properly thank you. Now that I've left the Devil Seal tablet, I only have to crush your soul and occupy your body. Then I'll be able to go look for my soul avatar. At that time, once my main soul returns, I'll be able to completely annihilate that stubborn fellow. Ah! Along with this arrogant and unbridled voice resounding out, Duan Lingtian's soul started to tremble intensely. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force that stretched out completely collapsed along with the trembling of his soul. No! Duan Lingtian's face went grim as he shouted out sorrowfully. Once his soul was crushed, it also meant that he would completely vanish from this world. Even if his body was still alive, it would only be a shell and no longer be him. However, all of this wasn't something Duan Lingtian could control. In Duan Lingtian's mind, the strong soul that swept towards Duan Lingtian's soul was simply even stronger than the soul of the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Finally, bang! That extremely strong soul collided with Duan Lingtian's soul. Instantly, Duan Lingtian's body trembled and he felt dizzy. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian, who originally thought that his consciousness would be annihilated, noticed to his astonishment that his trembling soul was ceaselessly stabilizing and ceaselessly recovering. In the end, the uncomfortable feeling completely vanished. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian noticed that the extremely strong soul from before seemed to have suddenly vanished without a trace. The thunder was loud, but the rain was small. Could it be? The scene before his eyes was so familiar to Duan Lingtian as well. Could it be that he's like the reincarnation Emperor Wu from all those years ago? Because my soul doesn't belong to this world in essence, it was restricted by some sort of rule, so he didn't succeed? Not only did he not succeed, he even lost his own soul? When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian had a strange expression. What an unlucky bastard. Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief, and his face revealed a complacent smile. So what if his soul is strong? You want to destroy my soul? You're simply seeking your own death. Looks like the reincarnation Emperor Wu has a companion this time. Big brother Lingtian, you're really asking for a beating? Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian noticed that the little gold mouse was looking at him in all seriousness, and she was communicating with him via voice transmission. The smile on Duan Lingtian's face froze when he heard this, and he was slightly embarrassed. At the same time, in an extremely distant place on a floating island that floated in midair, within an exceedingly luxurious and magnificent palace. Suddenly, Hey Ming, I never expected that you're so unlucky, even your main soul has been destroyed. A wave of unrestrained and relieved laughter sounded out from within the palace. Subsequently, the airflow in the air spread out, and a tall figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the magnificent palace. This was a young man. The young man wore azure clothes, his face had a perfect outline, and he had a graceful bearing and was incomparably handsome. His slanted brows were straight, and he emanated a dignified aura without being angry. His calm eyes seemed to have strands of azure-colored energy leaping about within them, and his sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. Presently, the young man's face was filled with an extremely delighted smile. It was as if he hadn't been so happy for a long time. Suddenly the distant air shook. Whoosh, whoosh. Two figures that were swift to the extreme appeared before the young man at practically the exact same moment. These were two old men. One wore blue clothes, the other wore red clothes. Master. The two old men looked at the young man in an extremely humble manner. I'm going to leave for a period of time. During this period of time, both of you will be in charge of all matters in the Azure Cloud Mansion. The young man glanced at the two old men indifferently, and with a raise of his hand, a command token shot out. Chapter 473. Yes, Master. After the red-clothed old man received the command token, he nodded respectfully with the blue-clothed old man, and they didn't dare be disrespectful in the slightest. Their reverence towards the young man came from the depths of their bones and souls. Even if the young man asked them to die, they wouldn't frown in the slightest. It was only because this was their master, the Supreme Master. All right, all of you can leave. The young man spoke indifferently. At the instant he finished speaking, the figures of the two old men gradually shattered and vanished without a trace. Their speed was so swift that only two material afterimages were left behind. For a time, only the young man remained in the sky above the palace. It has been over 20 years. During these 20 years, even though my soul existed, it was constantly suppressed. Now, He Ming's soul has been annihilated along with his main soul, and I've finally reclaimed control of my body. The young man's gaze was like a sword as he looked towards the distance, and it revealed traces of sorrow. Now that I think about it, I've left for 23 years. Suddenly, the young man's eyes became moist, and he seemed to have recalled something and was extremely sorrowful. His expression was extremely complicated. Sometimes it was filled with regret, sometimes it was filled with pity, sometimes it was filled with self-blame. Finally, the young man closed his eyes as his tears wet his face. If I could choose, I would rather choose those 23 years that I've missed and not this extraordinary strength. In the next moment, the young man didn't seem to have made any movements, yet his body shattered. It turned out that it was only an afterimage. The swamp of death in the depths of the enormous pit. The cave passageway in the enormous pit was extremely concealed, let alone the existence at the end of the cave passageway that was like an underground palace. Presently, in the audience hall of the underground palace, the owner of that formidable soul from before seemed to have said that it was his main soul. He even said something about a soul. Looks like it wasn't his complete soul. Duan Lingtian stood on the spot as he muttered to himself. But it's precisely this incomplete soul that gives me the feeling that it's even more formidable than the soul of Samsara Emperor Wu. Unfortunately, after his soul was annihilated, it didn't leave behind any memories for me. This is different from the Samsara Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and closed his eyes, recalling the thrilling scene just now. Finally, he came up with an answer. Perhaps, the reason why he could fuse with Emperor Wu's lifetime memories was because reincarnation Emperor Wu's soul had been hiding in his current body for many years. However, that powerful soul earlier belonged to an absolute outsider. I'm still too greedy? This time it's already not bad that I'm still alive. Duan Lingtian opened his eyes, shook his head and sighed. A man whose heart is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Perhaps this was the current him. In Duan Lingtian's heart, he was both shocked and curious about the existence that seemed to be even more powerful than the reincarnation Emperor Wu's soul. One could imagine that such a powerful existence would definitely have a rich memory. If he could obtain the other party's memories, it would undoubtedly be a great gain. Perhaps he might be able to obtain something he'd never expected. After all, in his senses, the other party's soul was even more formidable than the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Finally, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses, and his gaze once again descended onto the broken stone tablet. According to what that powerful soul said earlier, this stone tablet seems to be the Devil Seal tablet. What exactly is the Devil Seal tablet? Duan Lingtian instinctively raised his hand with the intention of grabbing the Devil Seal tablet and looking at it. His hand had just stretched out and exerted strength when a wisp of a bitter smile appeared on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Only now did he recall that even if Little Gold exerted her full strength at the third level of the void prying stage, she was unable to move this stone tablet in the slightest. I'm afraid. His thoughts hadn't finished revolving when they stopped abruptly. Duan Lingtian stared, his eyes wide open as he looked at the Devil Seal tablet in his hand, and he was completely stunned. How could I possibly pick it up? Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse stood at the side and was obviously shocked when she saw this scene, and she said via voice transmission. Big brother Lingtian, how did you do it? You're actually able to pick up this strange stone tablet? I don't know as well. Duan Lingtian shook his head and then he took a deep breath. I don't feel that my strength has become stronger. Then there's only one possibility, this stone tablet has become lighter by itself. The stone tablet has become lighter? The little gold mouse's figure flashed out and leaped onto the stone tablet. Subsequently, her claws grabbed onto the stone tablet and actually flew up along with the stone tablet. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse that flew up with the stone tablet was extremely excited, and she didn't forget to send a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. Big brother Lingtian, it has really become lighter. But why would it suddenly become lighter? Right, why would it suddenly become lighter? Duan Lingtian looked at the stone tablet that the little gold mouse had grabbed and flew up, and his heart shook. Could it be that it's because of that formidable soul from before? Because that soul left, so this stone tablet returned to normal? Although it was difficult to understand, Duan Lingtian could only think of this method to understand it now. The Devil Seal tablet. That fellow wouldn't be a monster that was sealed within this stone tablet, right? Just because my spiritual force extended into the Devil Seal tablet and opened up a path for him, allowing him to escape from the Devil Seal tablet? When he recalled what happened earlier and the words the owner of that formidable soul said before he was annihilated, Duan Lingtian was able to guess some things. If it's really like this, then I've really shot myself in the foot. Fortunately, my soul doesn't belong to this world and is protected by some sort of law. Otherwise I would have died for sure. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath once more, and there was a slight lingering fear in his heart. The scene from before was something he couldn't forget in his entire lifetime, and he didn't want to experience it a second time. Others might not encounter something like this in their entire lifetime, yet I've encountered it twice. My luck is really heaven-defying. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. Gradually, Duan Lingtian's surging mind calmed down, then he received the mysterious Devil Seal tablet from the little gold mouse and studied it for a while. And after he didn't discover anything, he casually tossed it into his spatial ring. Forget it, I'll slowly study it in the future. Although he didn't know what the Devil Seal tablet was and what use it had. But since the Devil Seal tablet was able to seal such a formidable soul, then he presumed it had its own uniqueness. Subconsciously, Duan Lingtian felt that this was a treasure that was hard to come by. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian and the little gold mouse carefully searched the audience hall for a while, and after they didn't discover anything, they prepared to leave. Before they left, Duan Lingtian asked the little gold mouse to pluck out the only valuable 9 luminous pearls in the audience hall. When Duan Lingtian bluntly put away the 9 luminous pearls into his spatial ring, the day was gone, and the entire audience hall fell into endless darkness, to the point one couldn't even see one's own fingers. The darkness didn't last for long, and a strand of raging azure-colored flames burned on Duan Lingtian's hand. What exactly happened all those years ago? This senior Duan Yu was obviously killed by someone shattering his sternum. Duan Lingtian had a complicated gaze as he glanced at Duan Yu's skeleton. I wonder if that deadbeat father of mine is still alive. If he's still alive, where would he go? Duan Lingtian didn't hold any hope in his heart. Duan Yu, the half-step void stage ancestor of the Duan clan. Even a half-step void stage expert had died in the swamp of death. Whereas that deadbeat father of his was only a martial artist that had just broken through to the nascent soul stage all those years ago. You can be considered to be buried in peace if you stay here. Duan Lingtian withdrew his gaze from the skeleton, then brought along the little gold mouse and left the audience hall. He returned to where he came from. When he returned, Duan Lingtian had already familiarized himself with the cave passageway, so he sped up and arrived at the exit in less than half an hour. Little Gold, let's go back. After calling out to the little gold mouse, Duan Lingtian sat on the back of the little gold mouse that had become larger. Then they left the enormous pit and returned to the surface of the swamp of death. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian continued to search deeper in. In the end, he still didn't find any clues related to his father. After spending over 10 days, Duan Lingtian had practically turned the entire swamp of death upside down, yet he still didn't find anything. Perhaps this is the best outcome. Duan Lingtian brought along the little gold mouse and left the swamp of death. Presently, both the man and mouse were slightly exhausted. During these 10+ days, besides not being able to eat and drink in peace, they also had to be vigilant against the surprise attacks of the demon beasts in the surroundings at all times. Big brother Lingtian, let's go to the nearby city and find a restaurant to eat. Outside the swamp of death, the little gold mouse suggested, and her jade-green eyes were filled with yearning. You little fellow, you're greedy again? Just nice, I want to find an inn to properly take a bath as well. Let's go. Duan Lingtian sat on the soft back of the little gold mouse and allowed the little gold mouse to bring him along as it flashed out. It wasn't long before they arrived outside the city. Fair Sun County's county city. Duan Lingtian brought along the little gold mouse that had shrunk down and walked into the county city with large strides. This Fair Sun County's county city is about the same as the Swallow Mountain County's county city. After entering the city, Duan Lingtian brought along the little gold mouse and merged into the endless stream of carriages, and he casually sized up the bustling Fair Sun County's county city. The county city was larger than ordinary small cities, but it was still inferior when compared to the imperial city. Duan Lingtian found an inn near the bustling trade market at the center of the city. Then he took a bath and changed his clothes before bringing the little gold mouse to a nearby restaurant. After ordering a few signature dishes, Duan Lingtian sat at a seat by the window and gazed at the bustling stream of people on the road outside the restaurant. It's really bustling. Huh? Suddenly, seeming to have noticed something, Duan Lingtian looked towards the entrance of the restaurant. Presently, a man and woman were walking in side by side. The young man amongst them was around the age of 30, and he had an arrogant expression as if he considered everything beneath his notice. Chapter 474. Tong Li. With a single glance, Duan Lingtian recognized this young woman around the age of 25, Tong Li, the young woman he taught a lesson in the restaurant all those years ago when he just arrived at the imperial city. He only found out later on. This Tong Li was actually the cousin sister of the imperial city's 5th prince. At that time, Tong Li had made things difficult for him on many occasions, and even the 5th prince wanted to take his life on many occasions. But unfortunately, the two of them didn't succeed. In the end, no matter if it was Tong Li or the 5th prince, they didn't have a good ending. Tong Li's cultivation was crippled by him. As for the 5th prince, he died in the throne room of the imperial palace. No wonder I felt Fair Sun County was slightly familiar since the beginning. Isn't this Tong Li the daughter of the Fair Sun County's county governor? Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding, and he couldn't help but recall the scene that occurred in the restaurant in the outer city of the imperial city all those years ago. At that time, after he taught Tong Li a lesson, he'd heard of Tong Li's identity. I really do have fate with her. Unknowingly, the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a wisp of a strange smile. Right at this moment, Tong Li, who just walked into the restaurant, noticed a burning gaze staring at her, causing her to frown as her face sank. She was the daughter of the Fair Sun County's county governor, who dared be so audacious. Tong Li's fierce gaze was like a sword that fiercely pierced towards the owner of the burning gaze. But when Tong Li's gaze touched the person, she seemed as if she'd seen a ghost, and her face went pale as her body started trembling intensely. It's him, it's him! The scene from the past was still before her eyes, yet Tong Li wasn't able to arouse any hatred in her heart, and there was only terror. With the current status and identity of the person before her, he wasn't someone she could shake. Even her greatest backer, her cousin brother, the 5th prince of the imperial city, was supposedly overthrown by this person before her a few years ago. Tong Li, long time no see. When he saw an acquaintance, Duan Lingtian naturally wouldn't not greet her, and he directly sent a voice transmission into Tong Li's ears. Tong Li seemed as if she was struck by lightning when she heard Duan Lingtian's voice transmission, and her face went ghastly pale to the extreme. Sister Li, what's wrong? Right at this moment, the young man who was walking side by side with Tong Li noticed that something was wrong with her. He followed Tong Li's gaze and his gaze descended onto Duan Tian as well. His expression couldn't help but darken. Younger sister Li, you know him? Do you want me to help you teach him a lesson? He had seen through Tong Li's fear when she faced the young man in the distance. He wanted to show off in front of Tong Li. I'm not feeling well. I want to return to the county governor's manor. Hearing the young man's words, Tong Li came back to her senses, her face turning green and white. Teach him a lesson? Within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, there was probably no one that dared to threaten to teach this person a lesson. As soon as Tong Li finished speaking, she turned around and left. Sister Li, wait for me. The young man's eyes that were suffused with cold lights swept Duan Tian with his gaze, then he turned around and chased after Tong Li. Tong Li's departure was out of Duan Tian's expectations. Am I that scary? Duan Tian shook his head and smiled, then withdrew his gaze. At this moment all the dishes he ordered were served one by one, and he started eating. Half an hour later, Duan Tian and the little gold mouse were full. Something worthy of mention was that the little gold mouse had actually snuck in to drink wine. Moreover, she'd completely finished the entire jug of wine, and she swayed as she stood on the table, as if she was practicing drunken punches. Finally, the little gold mouse's drunkenness kicked in, and she fell down head first, dead drunk. This little fellow actually didn't use origin energy to force the wine out? Duan Tian had a strange expression when he saw this scene. How would Duan Tian know? This was the first time the little gold mouse had drunk wine, and when the drunkenness kicked in, she'd forgotten everything, so how could she have thought of using origin energy to force the wine out? Looks like I have to stay in the Fair Sun County's county city for the night. This little fellow won't be able to wake up for a while. Duan Tian shook his head helplessly, then withdrew a few silver ingots to pay the bill. After paying the bill, Duan Tian intended to leave. Right at this moment, a wave of clamorous noise sounded out from outside the restaurant. Subsequently, under the lead of a young man, 5 robust middle-aged men walked angrily into the restaurant. The commotion caused by the 6 of them was extremely great, and it instantly drew the gazes of most of the customers in the restaurant. It's the Mo clan's eldest young master. The Mo clan's eldest young master is about to marry the county governor's daughter, young Miss Tong Li. Now, there's still someone in the Fair Sun County's county city that dares offend the Mo clan's eldest young master? Who exactly is so audacious? The entire restaurant was bustling with noise and excitement. Young Master Mo 2, this is... The manager of the restaurant moved forward to greet the young man, and he had a perturbed expression as he looked at the young man. Umph. But the young man paid no attention to the manager of the restaurant, and he instead looked at a young man in the distance that stood up and intended to leave, and he shouted out explosively. It's him. Instantly, the 5 robust middle-aged men behind him seemed to have transformed into 5 ferocious tigers as they rushed forward and surrounded the young man. Duan Tian had already recognized the young man early on when he brought his group over. Wasn't this young man the person that was with Tong Li earlier? Mo 2? The Mo clan's eldest young master? Duan Tian raised his eyebrows. He had heard the discussions of the group of customers in the restaurant earlier. For a moment, his gaze became a little strange and his heart trembled slightly. I really didn't expect that there's still someone who dares to marry Tong Li. I think this Mo clan should be a family force in the Fair Sun County's county city. At this moment, Duan Tian guessed many things. Surrounded by the 5 robust middle-aged men, Duan Tian had a calm expression that would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. You're the Mo clan's eldest young master, right? Duan Tian said indifferently. Why? Didn't Tong Li introduce me to you? How would Duan Tian know that Tong Li was already trembling with fear when she saw him earlier? How would she have the mood to explain so much to her fiancé? Perhaps Tong Li, who had already returned to the county governor's estate, completely did not expect that her fiancé would bring people to find trouble with Duan Tian. I don't care who you are or what relationship you have with Li, but since you've made her unhappy, I'll teach you a lesson. A cold and indifferent smile appeared on Mo 2's face, as if everything before his eyes was under his control. Teach me a lesson? Duan Tian was first stunned, then he smiled. Are you sure you want to teach me a lesson? Don't blame me for not warning you. There are some things that you have to pay the price for once you do them. Today, if your people dare to make a move, then I can't avoid going to your Mo clan to stay for a few days. When Duan Tian's words entered the ears of the group of customers in the restaurant, it was as if a perilous wave had been set off. This young man is so arrogant. He actually dares to threaten the eldest young master of the Mo clan when facing the eldest young master of the Mo clan and the 5 generals of the Mo clan. This young man is either a fool or has an extraordinary background. No matter how I look at it, this young man doesn't look like a fool. Everyone in the restaurant was discussing animatedly. Mo2's face sank as Duan Lingtian's words had similarly exceeded his expectations. Even though the 5 generals of the Mo clan had surrounded Duan Lingtian now, they didn't dare act rashly, and they were obviously waiting for Mo2's instructions. "Who are you?" Finally Mo2 spoke, and he stared at Duan Lingtian as he spoke slowly. As far as he was concerned, this young man was either deliberately mystifying things, or his identity was extraordinary. If it was the latter, then he would really have to be slightly fearful. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh when he heard Mo2, as he knew that Mo2 was afraid of him. Duan Lingtian didn't answer Mo2, and he couldn't be bothered to do so as well. He grabbed the little gold mouse and walked out of the restaurant with large strides. The 5 generals of the Mo clan looked on helplessly as Duan Lingtian left, and they didn't dare obstruct him. After all, their young master hadn't spoken. Damn it. Mo2's expression was unsightly to the extreme. When had he been disregarded like this? When he saw Duan Lingtian was about to walk out of the restaurant, he gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. "Capture him and beat him to death." This furious shout of his was obviously directed at the 5 Mo clan generals he brought along. Duan Lingtian's actions of disregarding him caused the accumulated flames of rage in his heart to completely explode. At this moment, he'd completely lost all reason. Simply speaking, he was hot-headed. As soon as Mo2 gave the order, the gazes of the 5 robust generals of the Mo clan went cold as they flashed towards Duan Lingtian at the same time. In the sky, ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form and dashed out. The cultivations of these 5 Mo clan generals were completely revealed. The weakest was the 5th level of the Origin Core stage, the strongest was the 7th level of the Origin Core stage. Duan Lingtian had only just stepped over the threshold and left the restaurant when he heard 5 waves of chaotic howls of the wind behind him. Duan Lingtian unhurriedly turned around. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into an indistinct smile when facing the 5 Mo clan generals that flashed towards him and made a move against him. Finally, Duan Lingtian moved. Before the 5 Mo clan generals had even charged out of the restaurant, he'd already entered the restaurant. Whirlwind. Instantly, Duan Lingtian seemed to have transformed into a gale, and everywhere the gale passed, a gale arose and swept through the entire restaurant. For a time, everywhere Duan Lingtian passed, the tables and chairs within the restaurant flew into the air and smashed towards all directions. This included the manager of the restaurant, the Mo clan's eldest young master, Mo2, and the group of customers who were dining in the restaurant. They felt a piercing pain in their eyes when this gust of strong wind swept over, and they instinctively closed their eyes. And right at the instant they closed their eyes, bang, 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 bang. 5 enormous bangs sounded out at almost the exact same time, and if one didn't listen carefully, one wouldn't be able to discern them. When the group of people opened their eyes and saw the scene before them, they were completely dumbstruck. The 5 Mo clan generals had fallen on the ground and were drenched in cold sweat as they cried out loudly and rolled all over the ground. Their painful expressions caused the people present to feel a chill run down their spines. This young man is too terrifying. 5 Origin Core stage martial artists. In just an instant they were all heavily injured by him? Unbelievable. This young man's age looks to be at most 22 or 23 years old. It's difficult to imagine that he actually possesses such formidable strength. His cultivation has extremely likely already stepped into the nascent soul stage. The restaurant was in an uproar. Chapter 475. Duan Lingtian's gaze contained a sense of mischief mixed within as it slowly descended onto the dumbstruck Mo clan's eldest young master, Mo Tuesday. At this moment, Mo2 had an astonished expression, and he still hadn't recovered from his shock. Never had he imagined that this young man would actually possess such a terrifying strength. In only an instant, the young man had heavily injured and defeated the 5 clan generals he brought along. Who exactly are you? At this moment, if Mo2 still didn't know that he'd kicked an iron plate, then he'd really have lived for so many years in vain. Mo2's heart was filled with regret. He hated himself for being hot-headed earlier. Lead the way. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and 5 grade 7 gold injury pills shot out and descended into the hands of the 5 Mo clan generals. The 5 Mo clan generals gratefully consumed the pills. Lead the way. Mo2 was stunned, and only now did he recall what Duan Lingtian said earlier, and his face went grim. But no matter how unwilling he was, he had no other choice. Duan Lingtian's strength was far from something he and the people he brought along could go against. In the entire Fair Sun County, the Mo clan could be considered to be a large clan, and its power and status in Fair Sun County was only inferior to the county governor's estate. But the atmosphere in the Mo clan today was especially oppressive. In the Mo clan audience hall, the seat at the head that originally belonged to the Mo clan's patriarch was occupied by a violet-clothed young man. Below him was the Mo clan's higher-ups, including the Mo clan's patriarch, gathered together. But at this moment, their hearts were filled with nervousness. A young man around the age of 23 had swept through 5 of their Mo clan's generals with extraordinary strength, and he was suspected to have stepped into the nascent soul stage. They were clearly aware of what a 23-year-old nascent soul stage martial artist meant. In their Crimson Sky Kingdom, even the imperial family and the 3 great clans would find it difficult to produce such a peerless genius. In other words, it was extremely likely that this young man wasn't a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and might even be from one of those formidable imperial kingdoms, empires, or even dynasties. Not to mention their Mo clan, even the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial family might not dare offend such a person. Bastard, why aren't you kneeling down? Suddenly the Mo clan's patriarch kicked his son Mo2 to the ground and shouted coldly. Mo2 didn't dare hesitate as he kneeled on the ground. Now he realized the seriousness of the matter. Young's name? The Mo clan patriarch looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a perturbed expression. Duan Lingtian of. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Duan Lingtian? Of the patriarch, of the clan's patriarch of the clan of the patriarch Lington. The clan master, of the master of the son of Links. When Mo2 heard Duan Lingtian's name, his body went limp and collapsed on the ground. After a while he struggled to kneel up again. Of Long, Clanus Masters as Master Commander, as Commander of the Commander, as Nephew of the Divine Might Marquis. As a great clan of Fair Sun County, how could the Mo clan not have heard of the Duan Lingtian, the #1 genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom that was spread like wildfire a few years ago? But they never imagined that Duan Lingtian, who was said to have left the Crimson Sky Kingdom, would actually return. Not only did he return, he even came to their Fair Sun County. And their Mo clan member actually made a move against Duan Lingtian. For a moment, the gazes of the Mo clan's higher-ups descended onto Mo2, and all of them were filled with rage. Slap, 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 slap. The Mo clan's patriarch took a step forward, raised his hand and directly beat Mo2 into a pig's head. Commander Duan, Mo Hong didn't teach his son well, please forgive me. Subsequently the Mo clan's patriarch, Mo Hong, bowed and apologized to Duan Lingtian with a face full of humility and nervousness. Please forgive me, Commander Duan. The Mo clan higher-ups all bowed and apologized, and they hated Mo2 to the bone. Even though Duan Lingtian wasn't a member of a great power of an imperial kingdom, empire, or dynasty. But to them, Duan Lingtian was far more terrifying than a member of a great power of an imperial kingdom, empire, or dynasty. If it was a member of a great power, the power behind him wouldn't go so far as to lower their status and fuss about it with their Mo clan. But Duan Lingtian was an existence that could be called a malefic star in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. They could imagine that once the matter of today was spread out, even without Duan Lingtian opening his mouth, there would be a group of powers that wanted to curry favor with Duan Lingtian that would make a move and annihilate their Mo clan. Moreover, Duan Lingtian had obviously broken through to the nascent soul stage. They'd heard of the matter of Duan Lingtian leaving the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago and heading to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom with the intention of joining a sect. As far as they were concerned, Duan Lingtian was surely able to have such a great improvement and break through to the nascent soul stage at such a young age because he'd obtained the cultivation resources of a great sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. With Duan Lingtian's natural talent, he would surely be valued highly by a sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. It wouldn't be difficult for him to become a great figure in a sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom in the future. They could imagine that the current Duan Lingtian was sufficient to make any power in the Crimson Sky Kingdom intentionally curry favor with him. Duan Lingtian. He's actually Duan Lingtian. I should have thought of it. In the Crimson Sky Kingdom, I'm afraid only this Duan Lingtian is capable of scaring Sister Li into fleeing. Mo2 knelt on the ground and his body shivered. Patriarch Mo, you must be joking. I came to your Mo clan this time only because I wanted to disturb you for a few days. It can't be helped, I've been poor recently and can't even afford to stay in an inn. Duan Lingtian sat upright at the head seat, his left hand held the little gold mouse that was dead drunk, and his right hand lightly stroked the little gold mouse's smooth back as he pretended to sigh. All the Mo clan higher-ups were stunned for a moment, then they instantly reacted. Commander Duan, this is 1 million gold. Take it as our Mo clan's compensation. Please accept it. The Mo clan's patriarch, Mo Hong, didn't say anything before withdrawing a large stack of gold from his spatial ring and passing it over to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian bluntly received the gold and casually put it away in his spatial ring. All the Mo clan higher-ups heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. As far as they were concerned, since Duan Lingtian had accepted the money, he ought to not fuss about this matter. Unexpectedly. This 1 million taels of gold is the compensation for the shock this young master Mo gave me. Duan Lingtian looked at the Mo clan higher-ups and said indifferently. The Mo clan higher-ups, who originally thought that they could send off Duan Lingtian like this, were completely dumbstruck. 1 million gold was just compensation for the fright? Mo2, who was kneeling on the ground, only felt his vision go black, and he almost fainted. His heart was filled with grievance. Who exactly is the one that scared who? Of course, he didn't dare say anything and could only helplessly mutter in his heart. All the Mo clan higher-ups reacted and once again glanced angrily at Mo Tuesday. As far as they were concerned, if it wasn't for Mo2, how could their Mo clan possibly invite such a great god back? It's easy to invite a god in but hard to send him away. Today they could be considered to have completely understood the meaning of these words. Commander Duan, please accept it. Mo Hong once again gave him 1 million gold, his heart dripping blood. 2 million taels of gold was undoubtedly a large sum of money for the Mo clan. At this moment he truly wished that he could slap his son to death. This prodigal son, in such a short period of time, he had already lost 2 million gold to the Mo clan. Yes. Duan Lingtian received the gold and nodded with satisfaction. Patriarch Mo is indeed straightforward. Since Patriarch Mo is so straightforward, then I won't make things difficult for Patriarch Mo. Duan Lingtian's words caused Mo Hong and the Mo clan higher-ups to heave a sigh of relief. Were they finally going to send off this fiend? However, in the next moment, when they heard Duan Lingtian's following words, their hearts were once again in suspense. Take this 1 million gold as the payment for the grade 7 gold injury pills that I gave to your Mo clan's 5 generals. Patriarch Mo, you wouldn't mind, right? Duan Lingtian once again put away the stack of gold and looked at Mo Hong as he asked with a calm tone. I don't mind. Mo Hong hurriedly replied, not daring to be negligent. However, in his heart he had long since started cursing. 5 grade 7 gold injury pills for 1 million gold? This was simply more unscrupulous than a profiteer. Since it's like this. Seeing that Patriarch Mo is so cooperative, your Mo clan will compensate me another 1 million gold as the payment for my actions. How about it? All of you know that when a nascent soul stage martial artist makes a move, it still consumes some origin energy. A smile bloomed on Duan Lingtian's face. Patriarch Mo, don't you agree? At this moment, Duan Lingtian's smile was no different than a devil's in the eyes of Mo Hong and the Mo clan higher-ups. You only made a move and even hit our people. You still want a payment for your actions? The Mo clan's eldest young master Mo2, who was kneeling there and suffering, had his already shattered psychological line of defense completely collapse. Bang! In the next moment, Mo2's vision went black, and he directly fainted from anger. However, no one pitied him, including his father. Giving away 3 million taels of gold like this was undoubtedly a huge blow to the Mo clan. It was also their Mo clan that relied on their relationship with the county governor's estate to monopolize many industries in Fair Sun County. Otherwise, even if they sold everything they had, they wouldn't be able to take out so much money. After receiving another 1 million gold, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He never imagined that the Mo clan, a clan in Amir County, would actually be able to take out so much money. At the beginning he only planned to ask the Mo clan for a few 100,000 gold. But who knew that the Mo clan's patriarch Mo Hong would give him 1 million gold as soon as he made a move, causing him to be embarrassed to not take more. It could be imagined. If Mo Hong knew what Duan Lingtian was thinking in his heart, he would probably be angered to the point of spitting blood. Patriarch Mo, your Mo clan is really generous. If I'm free in the future, I'll surely come often. When Duan Lingtian left, he smiled as he spoke to Mo Hong. However, these words of his caused the expressions of all the Mo clan higher-ups, including Mo Hong, to go pale. This maleficent star wants to come often? Ah, just kidding, just kidding. When he saw the expressions of all the Mo clan higher-ups change, Duan Lingtian laughed, then took the little gold mouse and directly left. Chapter 476. After Duan Lingtian left the Missouri clan estate with the little gold mouse, he left the Fair Sun County's county city and returned to the imperial city. As far as he was concerned, the matter of the Mo clan was only a farce. 3 million taels of gold was nothing to him, who had tens of millions of taels of gold in his possession. Since the Mo clan's eldest young master had offended him, he could only consider himself unlucky. After returning to the imperial city, Duan Lingtian didn't return home but instead went to the Duan clan, as he had some unresolved questions in his heart. After arriving at the Duan clan estate, Duan Lingtian went to look for the patriarch, Duan Ruhua. Patriarch, I heard Uncle Nye say that after my father went missing in the Swamp of Death all those years ago, the clan had once sent an expert into the Swamp of Death to look for him. I wonder what was the name of that expert? Duan Lingtian went straight to the point. Although he didn't know why Duan Lingtian was suddenly interested in this, Duan Ruhua still said, that expert was an ancestor of our Duan clan, an existence at the half-step void stage. He was called Duan Yu. Duan Yu. Duan Lingtian's eyes imperceptibly constricted. Looks like his guess wasn't wrong. The skeleton he saw in the underground palace's audience hall under the enormous pit in the Swamp of Death really belonged to that expert from the Duan clan all those years ago. The letter within the spatial ring of that skeleton was sufficient to prove his identity. Little Tian, why did you suddenly ask about this? Duan Ruhua asked curiously. Just asking. Duan Lingtian smiled but didn't speak the truth. It wasn't that he intentionally concealed it, but rather that he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble for that senior. After all, that senior had already passed away for a long time. Just let that senior sleep peacefully in that underground palace. After finding out what he wanted to know, Duan Lingtian's objective this time could be considered to have been accomplished, and he directly bid farewell to Duan Ruhua and left. After leaving the Duan clan estate, Duan Lingtian made a trip to Paladin Academy to see his teacher in the Paladin Academy's Star Mastermind Department, Sima Changfeng. He was also the Dean of Paladin Academy. You've returned for so long, you only remembered to see me now? Once they met, Sima Changfeng couldn't help but laugh and scold him. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. Recently, I've encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation and have been busy cultivating, so, hee. Alright, I was just joking. I heard that 1 month ago, as soon as you returned, you made the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom suffer a loss and flee in panic. Moreover, you used an extremely strange method. Sima Changfeng glanced deeply at Duan Lingtian. Also, the junior brother you brought back is actually a first-level nascent soul martial artist. I'm very curious, as his senior brother, what realm has your cultivation reached? Seeing Sima Changfeng's burning gaze, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. He took a step forward and his yuan power surged. The next moment, whoosh! In the sky above Duan Lingtian, 1,000 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form, and they accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Sima Changfeng exclaimed with an astonished expression. Although he was prepared since long ago and guessed that Duan Lingtian's current strength ought to be stronger than his junior brother, Sima Changfeng never imagined no matter what. Duan Lingtian had actually broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. A 23-year-old 7th level nascent soul stage martial artist? What sort of concept was this? Even in the entire Darkhan dynasty, a 23-year-old 7th level nascent soul stage martial artist is probably extremely rare, Sima Changfeng thought to himself. When Sima Changfeng was astonished, Duan Lingtian was using his spiritual force to size up Sima Changfeng. After not seeing him for a few years, this teacher of his had already broken through to the 4th level of the void prying stage, and it was shocking. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian chatted with Sima Changfeng for a while before bidding his farewells and leaving. When he left, he went to see the Vice Dean Zhan Hong. Zhan Hong had helped him many times all those years ago, and he'd always remembered it in his heart. Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the branch sect of the Azure Forest Trisect, the Snow Moon sect. The Snow Moon sect was one of the 5 great sects of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom in the past. Yet now, along with the Mountain Split sect and 7-Star Sword sect being annihilated successively, only 3 of the 5 great sects remained, and they'd merged together. The Snow Moon sect had completely vanished in the annals of history. Whoosh! A graceful figure was like an exceedingly swift bolt of lightning that flashed into the sect. This caused the disciples that guarded the sect to be dumbstruck. "Isn't that senior sister Luyu?" One of them recognized the owner of that graceful figure. The personal disciple of one of the 3 great sect leaders of the Azure Forest Trisect, sect leader Shuirue. Shuirue was the former sect leader of the Snow Moon sect. Senior sister Luyu is so anxious, looks like she's encountered an urgent matter. Another person couldn't help but guess. As the former Snow Moon sect's residence, it was covered in snow all year round, and it seemed to be covered in a layer of beautiful silver. "Master." In the depths of the snowy mountain, an anxious voice broke the silence. Before a palace that was enveloped in snow, a young woman around the age of 30 stood there, and when she spoke, her breath condensed into ice and fell down. "Come in." A voice sounded out from within the palace. The young woman walked into the audience hall of the palace and looked at the nearby middle-aged man before bowing respectfully. "Master." The middle-aged man wore a silk headdress and held a feather fan in his hand, and he had an elegant bearing and extraordinary bearing. What's the matter that's so hurried?" The middle-aged man that was dressed like a scholar, the former sect leader of the Snow Moon sect, Shuirue, had a bewildered expression as he looked at his personal disciple. "Master, there's news of Duan Lingtan." Luyu's face flushed red as she spoke excitedly. "What?" Shuirue's pupils constricted when he heard this. "Where is he now?" As Shuirue finished speaking, his tone had slight coldness. Since the battle at the 7-Star Sword sect the other day, Duan Lingtian had fled, and their Azure Forest Trisect had exhausted all their efforts to search for the whereabouts of Duan Lingtian, yet they came up empty-handed. Duan Lingtian, the monstrous genius of the 7-Star Sword sect, had suppressed the zither young master that was ranked 3rd among the 5 great young masters at the mere age of 23. They could imagine that once this Duan Lingtian matured in the future, he would surely become a great calamity for their Azure Forest Trisect. So no matter what, they had to drag out this Duan Lingtian and eliminate him by the roots before he matured. Otherwise, the Azure Forest Trisect would never have a day of peace. But during this period of time, even though they'd exhausted a great deal of effort in searching for the whereabouts of Duan Lingtian, they'd always been unable to find any clues related to Duan Lingtian. This caused them to be impatient. Yet now there was finally news of Duan Lingtian. "Master, Duan Lingtian is currently within the imperial city of a small kingdom under our Azure Forest Kingdom, the Crimson Sky Kingdom." Luyu spoke with slight excitement. After all, after the battle at the 7-Star Sword sect, the 3 great sect leaders of the Azure Forest Trisect had jointly announced, no matter who it was, once a disciple of the Azure Forest Trisect found the whereabouts of Duan Lingtian and killed Duan Lingtian, the disciple would be able to obtain a Grade 5 spirit weapon. In the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Grade 5 spirit weapons had always been the exclusive right of the leaders of the few great powers that stood at the peak. The degree of its preciousness was obvious. Whereas for the sake of searching for Duan Lingtian's whereabouts, the reward offered by the Azure Forest Trisect was precisely the 2 Grade 5 spirit weapons of the 7-Star Sword sect and Mountain Split sect that had already been annihilated. Once Duan Lingtian was killed, the person that provided the whereabouts of Duan Lingtian could choose any one of the Grade 5 spirit weapons. At this moment, Luyu seemed to have seen a Grade 5 spirit weapon beckoning to her. Crimson Sky Kingdom? Shuirue was first stunned, then came to a sudden understanding. No wonder we were unable to find any clues related to Duan Lingtian even after mobilizing all the disciples of the Azure Forest Trisect. So it turns out that he went to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Is the information accurate? Shuirue had a serious expression as he asked Luyu. "Don't worry, Master, the information is surely accurate. For the sake of verifying it, I even personally made a trip to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Master, perhaps you still don't know, but Duan Lingtian rose to fame in the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago, and he's even publicly acknowledged as the #1 genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom." Luyu said slowly, "According to the information I personally found out, Duan Lingtian had once appeared in the Imperial Palace of the Crimson Sky Kingdom 2 months ago. Moreover, he has many friends and relatives in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City." When she spoke up to hear, Luyu paused for a moment before continuing. If it's necessary, we're entirely capable of using those people to force Duan Ling Tian to show himself. You're very good, you didn't disappoint master. Shui Rui's face revealed a gratified smile. I'll go look for sect leader Long and sect leader Lu right away and tell them of this good news. Once Duan Ling Tian is killed, you'll obtain a grade 5 spirit weapon. As soon as he finished speaking, Shui Rui soared into the sky and left directly, only leaving behind Lu Yu, who stood on the spot with an excited expression. Crimson Sky Kingdom, Imperial City. Unknowingly, I've already returned for 2 months. In the spacious rear courtyard of the courtyard house, Duan Ling Tian sat within the pergola as he teased the little gold mouse on the table. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse looked at Duan Ling Tian and cried out, then said via voice transmission, Big brother Ling Tian, do you miss big sister Kerr and big sister Li Fei? Duan Ling Tian nodded. Kerr and little Fei haven't returned until now. I wonder where they went. Before the little gold mouse could reply, Young master. A voice sounded out into the rear courtyard. Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that this was Jingru's voice. Jingru, what's wrong? Duan Ling Tian brought the little gold mouse along and left the rear courtyard to arrive at the front courtyard. Young master, there's a member of the Duan clan outside looking for you. Jingru said to Duan Ling Tian. A member of the Duan clan? Duan Ling Tian walked out of the courtyard house and noticed that there was already a carriage waiting there. Little Tian. In next to no time, the curtain of the carriage was pulled open and a middle-aged man stuck his head out. I'll take you to see someone. Duan Ling Tian recognized the person, the Duan clan's fourth master, Duan Ru Hong. Duan Ling Tian carried his bewilderment as he boarded the carriage. See who? You'll know when we arrive at the clan. Duan Ru Hong kept Chen Shi in suspense. Duan Ling Tian carried his bewilderment as he arrived at the Duan clan estate with Duan Ru Hong and headed towards the Duan clan audience hall. They hadn't even entered the audience hall when Duan Ling Tian heard a voice that sounded out from within. Third brother, all this isn't your fault. Besides that, your son is extremely promising. Now that you've returned, you can properly enjoy your life. Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that this was the voice of the patriarch, Duan Ru Hua. Third brother? Chapter 477. Duan Ling Tian's breathing became hurried when he heard Patriarch Duan Ru Hua. In the entire world, there seemed to be only one person that could be called third brother by Duan Ru Hua, Duan Ruffing. In other words, his deadbeat father. Not to mention that as a person that had transmigrated from Earth, he didn't have any feelings towards his deadbeat father that he'd never met. Even the Duan Ling Tian from before didn't have any memories of his deadbeat father. To Duan Ling Tian, his father was too distant, too illusory. However, the sudden appearance of a person that had been missing for an entire 23 years still caused Duan Ling Tian to be shocked and feel disbelief. Fourth uncle, is it really my father? Duan Ling Tian looked at Duan Ru Hong and couldn't refrain himself from asking. An unprecedented perturbed feeling. Duan Ru Hong lightly smiled. Wouldn't you know if it's your father once you go in and take a look? Only when Duan Ling Tian walked into the audience hall did he understand what Duan Ru Hong meant earlier. Within the audience hall, a young man with a tall figure was standing opposite the patriarch of the Duan clan, Duan Ru Hua. Now, when they heard his footsteps, the two of them turned around at practically the same time to look over. Duan Ling Tian's gaze completely descended onto the young man. The young man wore azure clothes, his hair casually scattered on his shoulders, and his handsome face was incomparably clean. The young man had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a firm expression, and distinct edges that seemed as if they were carved by a blade. What caused Duan Ling Tian to be most surprised was that the young man's appearance was actually 60% or 70% similar to his own. At the same time, when facing this young man, a feeling of blood connection arose in his heart for no reason. At this instant, there was no need for any words as Duan Ling Tian had already confirmed the young man's identity. Duan Ruffing. His deadbeat father. The husband that his mother yearned for day and night. When Duan Ling Tian was looking at Duan Ruffing was looking at him as well. Duan Ling Tian could see traces of excitement contained within Duan Ruffing's eyes. It was excitement that came from the bottom of his heart. You're Tian? Duan Ruffing walked forward in large strides and arrived before Duan Ling Tian in a few steps. Then he stretched out his hand towards Duan Ling Tian's face. If it was another person, Duan Ling Tian would have kicked that person flying long ago. However, at this moment, Duan Ling Tian did not do so and allowed the other party to reach out and touch his face. For some reason, a feeling, Tian Duan Ling Tian. Who's this feeling? Father? Dudo Duan Tu, is Duan Tian Tian Tus to recognize Duan Tian to him to speak. In fact, the moment he saw Duan Ru Feng, he was filled with resentment toward him. He resented Duan Ruffing for not coming back earlier and letting his mother suffer so much. Everything that was happening right now seemed to be at the behest of ghosts and gods. It was as if his subconscious was urging him to do so. What did you just call me? You called me father? Duan Rufing's face was full of excitement and surprise. Obviously, he didn't expect that this son, whom he had never met before, would directly recognize him as his father. After all these years he was the one who had let Duan Ling Tian down. Even if Duan Ling Tian didn't want to recognize him as his father, he wouldn't be surprised and he wouldn't blame Duan Ling Tian either. For over 20 years, he had never fulfilled his responsibility as a father. You're not my father? When Duan Ling Tian heard Duan Rufing's words, he couldn't help but be startled. No. I'm your father. Duan Rufing spoke without thinking, as he was deeply afraid Duan Ling Tian wouldn't recognize him as his father. Duan Ling Tian started laughing. But in next to no time his smile completely froze. When his spiritual force touched Duan Rufing, he actually noticed that there wasn't the slightest trace of origin energy in Duan Rufing's body. When his spiritual force fused into Duan Rufing's Dantian, he didn't notice even the slightest trace of origin energy. Father, your origin energy. Duan Lingtian's face went grim. Although his spiritual force didn't notice any trace of damage in Duan Rufing's Dantian, Duan Rufing's body really didn't have the slightest trace of origin energy. After all, Duan Rufing was already a nascent soul martial artist 23 years ago. Now 23 years had passed. Logically speaking, with the natural talent that Duan Rufing revealed that day, it wasn't difficult for his cultivation to break through to the void initiation stage. But now, not only was Duan Rufing not a nascent soul martial artist, even his origin energy had completely vanished. Of course, it wasn't that Duan Lingtian hadn't thought that Duan Rufing's cultivation might have advanced to the void interpretation stage due to some sort of fortuitous encounter. But even if it was a void interpretation stage expert, even if Duan Lingtian couldn't see through the depth of their cultivation, he was still able to sense the origin energy within their bodies. Now, Duan Rufing's body didn't have the slightest trace of origin energy. The result of Duan Lingtian's investigation was that Duan Rufing was currently only a 9th-level body tempering stage martial artist that hadn't developed origin energy. This was no different from a martial artist whose Dantian was crippled. At this moment, Duan Lingtian faintly realized that perhaps this was related to the reason why this cheapskate father of his had gone missing for so many years. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian wasn't wrong. My origin energy doesn't exist anymore. Duan Rufing sighed. That year, I went to the Swamp of Death to search for the serene oxypetalum for you and your mother, but an unforeseen event suddenly occurred during this period of time. Because of some reason, it caused me to have no choice but to be unable to return to look for you and your mother during these 23 years. As he spoke up to hear, Duan Rufing's eyes flashed with a cold light. If it wasn't for the sake of being able to return to look for you and your mother, I would have long since chosen to burn both jade and stone and perish together with that person. There was utterly no need for me to be ordered around by him for so many years and struggle at death's door until today. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was able to feel the dense coldness contained within Duan Rufing's tone. That person? Duan Lingtian's face sank. Who was that person? I'll take revenge for you. There's no need. Duan Rufing shook his head. Duan Lingtian instantly had a bewildered expression. Duan Rufing explained. That person's evil deeds were repaid with evil, and he's already been completely annihilated. Otherwise, Father might not have been able to return to look for you and your mother. Then he really got off lightly. Duan Lingtian grunted coldly, and his eyes were filled with awe-inspiring coldness. That person didn't just destroy his father, he even caused his mother to be alone and without anyone to rely on for so many years. He wished for nothing more than to tear that person into pieces. No matter what, it's a happy thing that you and your father were able to reunite once more. Duan Ruhua, who'd always been standing silently at the side, spoke slowly. Yeah, third brother. Even if you don't have your cultivation, you still have an extraordinary son. You just have to properly enjoy your life in the future. Duan Ruhong spoke out as well. Duan Rufing nodded, then looked at Duan Lingtian and said with an ashamed expression, Tian, the patriarch has already told me about your past experiences. It's been hard on you and your mother these past few years. All of this is father's fault. Father, don't mention the matters of the past. You being able to return this time is already a great fortune amidst misfortune. I think that if mother were to see you, she would surely be extremely happy. Duan Ling Tian persuaded Duan Ruffing, and as he finished speaking, his face revealed a smile. Duan Ruffing's body shook when he heard this. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian bid his farewells to Duan Ruhua and Duan Ru Hong before leaving the Duan clan estate with Duan Ruffing. On the way, Duan Ling Tian had the intention of asking Duan Ruffing about his experiences in these past 20 years. However, he quickly noticed that Duan Ruffing wasn't too willing to mention that experience. Based on father's current attitude, I can imagine that it's surely an experience that he's unwilling to recall. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart, and at the same time he didn't ask any further. Not long after, Duan Ling Tian brought Duan Ruffing back to his own courtyard house. Young master, this is... Jianghu was completely stunned when she saw Duan Ruffing by Duan Ling Tian's side. Because Duan Ruffing and Duan Ling Tian were too similar in appearance. Jianghu, this is my father. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he spoke. Jianghu was shocked, and at the same time that she slightly lost her composure, she hurriedly bowed to Duan Ruffing. Greetings, master. According to her knowledge, didn't the young master's father go missing over 20 years ago? Now that he suddenly returned, it was surprising. Father, she's Jianghu, the manager of my courtyard house. Duan Ling Tian said to Duan Ruffing. Duan Ruffing lightly smiled as he nodded to Jianghu, but his gaze quickly moved away from Jianghu and swept through the courtyard house. Jianghu guessed what Duan Ruffing was looking for, and she lightly smiled as she said, Master, Madam is in the rear courtyard. Rear courtyard? Duan Ruffing's eyes brightened, and his handsome and firm face slightly trembled with excitement. Father, come with me. Duan Ling Tian took Duan Ruffing to the rear courtyard. In the rear courtyard, a graceful and beautiful figure stood in the distance, watering the flowers and plants. Her back was picturesque, which made people's eyes brighten. Tian, are you back? Hearing the footsteps, the woman slowly turned around. I heard from Jianghu that early in the morning you... The woman didn't finish her words because at this moment she was completely stunned. For more than 20 years, the figure that appeared in countless midnight dreams appeared in front of her eyes. So real but so illusory. Brother Feng. I'm not dreaming, am I? The woman's gaze completely ignored Duan Ling Tian, and fell on Duan Ruffing beside Duan Ling Tian. She was inexplicably excited. The woman's delicate body trembled violently, and her eyes were full of anxiety, for fear that the scene in front of her was just a dream. She didn't even have the courage to pinch herself to make sure whether she was dreaming or not. Because once she failed, it meant that she would wake up from the dream. She didn't want to interrupt this beautiful moment. Even if it was just a dream, she still hoped that she would never wake up from this dream, and hoped that this moment could become eternal. At this moment, Duan Ruffing's body was also trembling slightly. His mood was no different from the woman in front of him. Mother. Seeing that his cheap father Duan Ruffing stayed in the same place for a long time without any movement, Duan Ling Tian shook his head with a smile and exclaimed, You're not dreaming. Father is back. Your intuition is right. Father is not dead, really not dead. Chapter 478. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that his mother and that deadbeat father of his had been separated for so many years, and they surely had many things to say to each other. So he sensibly left the rear courtyard and didn't disturb them. I truly never imagined that I would actually recognize this father as a coincidence. When he recalled the scene that occurred in the Duan clan earlier, Duan Ling Tian was still slightly unable to understand and find it hard to believe. At that moment, he didn't even have the time to react before inexplicably calling Duan Ruffing father. Perhaps this is the connection of bloodlines, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. But no matter what, Duan Ling Tian was extremely happy that Duan Ruffing was able to return. He wasn't happy for himself. He'd long since gotten used to his current life, and whether that deadbeat father of his returned or not didn't affect him too much. He was happy for his mother. During these past few years, his mother had painstakingly raised him up. A woman that didn't have anyone to rely on, the hardships she carried could be imagined. So, Duan Ling Tian had always loved his mother dearly. Now that the man his mother yearned for day and night had returned, It also meant that from today onwards, his mother wouldn't be alone any longer. Squeak squeak, suddenly the little gold mouse's cry sounded out by Duan Lingtian's ears. Little gold, what's wrong? Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse in bewilderment and asked curiously. The little gold mouse blinked her jade-green eyes as she stared at Duan Lingtian and said via voice transmission, Big brother Lingtian, when your father looked at me earlier, I sensed a terrifying aura sweeping over. That terrifying aura was extremely similar to the aura I sensed at the Swamp of Death the last time. Swamp of Death? Duan Lingtian's brows raised. He clearly remembered what happened the last time. It was precisely because the little gold mouse sensed that terrifying aura that she was able to bring him to the underground palace that was embedded deep underground. But, according to what the little gold mouse said, that terrifying aura only appeared briefly at the moment the formidable soul wanted to crush his soul and seize his body in the end. That terrifying aura was obviously emitted by that formidable soul. On that day Duan Lingtian had guessed it. Little gold, I think you've surely sensed wrongly. The owner of that aura you sense will never appear again. Duan Lingtian shook his head and thought that the little gold mouse sensed wrongly. The little gold mouse's head drooped and didn't refute. After all, it had only sensed the terrifying aura when Duan Rufeng looked at it earlier. In the blink of an eye, that aura. At this moment, even she herself wasn't sure if it was a misconception or not. Only when night fell did Duan Lingtian hear Li Ro call out to him. Duan Lingtian brought along the little gold mouse to walk into the rear courtyard. Only now did he notice that his mother, Li Ro, was leaning by the side of his cheapskate father, Duan Rufeng. Her beautiful cheeks revealed a wisp of crimson, and her watery eyes even seemed to be able to melt everything. Mother, congratulations on getting what you wanted. It was the first time Duan Lingtian had seen his mother so happy, and he couldn't help but reveal a smile. He was able to discern that his mother was really happy, and her happiness was written all over her face. Quickly come over and let your father take a good look at you. Li Ro called Duan Lingtian over, and her smile was like a flower that was beautiful and moving. Duan Lingtian walked over. It's been hard on you these past few years. I've already found out about what you and Tianer have experienced these past few years. I guarantee that I won't leave you half a step in the future. Duan Rufeng looked at his wife by his side, and his heart was filled with guilt when he thought of his wife's experiences these past few years. Li Ro nodded lightly with a face full of happiness. The family of three was joyous and harmonious. During this period of time, for the sake of not causing his mother to worry, Duan Lingtian didn't mention the matter of his father losing his origin energy, and he only acted as a foil and listened to his father and mother speak of past matters. These past matters were mostly matters of his father and mother when they were young. At that time he still didn't exist. I actually have 2 future daughters-in-law? After Duan Rufeng heard Li Ro mention Ke and Li Fei, his eyes lit up, and he smiled as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Not bad, not bad. You're stronger than your father in this aspect. What? Big brother Feng, you want to hug one in each hand as well? Sitting next to Duan Rufeng, Li Ro's voice was as gentle as water, and almost no strange emotions could be detected from it. However, Duan Rufeng's face completely collapsed. I said the wrong thing, I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean that. Seeing Duan Rufeng hurriedly explaining to Li Ro, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh. After a while. Big brother Feng Tian, you two have a good chat and cultivate your relationship. I'll cook tonight. When Li Ro left the backyard, her cheeks were flushed and she was very happy. People were in high spirits when faced with happy events. This was the current Li Ro. To Li Ro, nothing could make her happier than the return of her husband who had been missing for more than 20 years. Father, what's wrong with your origin energy? I noticed that your Dantian doesn't seem to have any traces of damage. Can you cultivate again? Duan Lingtian looked at Duan Rufeng and asked. You don't have to worry about me. I'm already very happy to be able to return to your mother's side this time. As for other things, they're not important to me. Duan Rufeng's words came from the bottom of his heart. It was as if losing his origin energy would not affect his mood at all. Duan Lingtian was silent. Could it be that his father really couldn't cultivate again? Although he didn't know the reason based on his father's current attitude, it was obvious that he didn't intend to cultivate again. Or perhaps it was because of some reason that his father couldn't cultivate again. Soon, Duan Lingtian seemed to have thought of something and he didn't ask any further. Father, it doesn't matter if you can cultivate again or not. Even if you don't have your cultivation base, you're still my mother's husband and my father, Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian smiled. Just like what fourth uncle said at the Duan clan estate today. In the future, you just have to accompany by mother's side and properly enjoy life. I don't dare guarantee anything else, but I still dare guarantee that I'll give you and mother a stable life. Tian. Duan Lingtian's words caused Duan Ruffing to go silent for a long time before slowly speaking. However, even if he spoke, he seemed to not know what to say, and he only lightly called out, Duan Lingtian. His tone was filled with gratification. All those years ago, the child that was still in his wife's womb had already grown up and was successful and well known now. As a father, he was happy for Duan Lingtian. Not long after, Li Ro brought along the servant girls to carry the food into the rear courtyard, and the family of 3 gathered together to eat happily. Squeak squeak, during the process of eating, the little gold mouse poked its nose in and added a great deal of fun. Duan Lingtian ate this meal with incomparable warmth and happiness. But after the meal, as he sat alone at the side, his gaze became slightly misty. I wonder where Kerr and little Fei are now and how they are. Besides his mother, the 2 little girls were the greatest worry in Duan Lingtian's heart. Especially now when he saw his mother happily snuggling up by his father's side, his feelings were even greater. Logically speaking, no matter how far they went, they ought to have returned by now, right? Deep into the night, it was rare that Duan Lingtian didn't cultivate, and he lay on the bed as he thought of the 2 little girls. Unknowingly he'd fallen asleep. On this night, he had a dream, and he dreamed that Kerr and little Fei had returned. But, when he woke up the next day and stretched out his arms, the empty feeling undoubtedly told Duan Lingtian that Kerr and little Fei hadn't returned yet. With Peak Master Qin Xiang by their side, they ought to be fine. Duan Lingtian consoled himself, but he still couldn't help but think of the 2 girls in his heart. Finally, 5 days later, Duan Lingtian's home welcomed a guest from afar, a beautiful woman that was travel-worn. It was precisely the Peak Master of Alcade Peak, Qin Xiang. Presently, Qin Xiang's beautiful face seemed to be covered in a layer of frost, and her pair of beautiful eyes seemed to contain a slight trace of scarlet red mixed within. Peak Master, you know everything? When Duan Lingtian saw Qin Xiang's current expression, he knew that Qin Xiang surely knew what had occurred in the 7-Star Sword sect, and he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Qin Xiang nodded, and the killing intent in her eyes was awe-inspiring. I never imagined that I'd only left for a little over a year, and so many things had happened in the sect. Azure Forest Trisect. What an Azure Forest Trisect. The 7-Star Sword sect could be said to be Qin Xiang's home. Besides the contribution of that big sister of hers, Qin Xiang was able to have her current achievements was mostly because of her master's wholehearted fostering. Her master was an inner court elder of the 7-Star Sword sect. He was one of the few existences at the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage or above in the 7-Star Sword sect. Even though her current cultivation had already surpassed her master's, she was still very weak. But in her heart, a master for a day was a father for life. Now her master had been killed. The sect that fostered her into a genius had been annihilated. Peak Master, don't worry. What the Azure Forest Trisect owes us, what it owes the 7-Star Sword sect, it'll be returned sooner or later. A strand of frightening killing intent flashed within Duan Lingtian's eyes, and he said word by word, a debt of blood must be paid with blood. Well said. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Qin Xiang nodded, and her eyes flickered with cold lights. Peak Master, where's Kerr and little Fei? Why didn't they return with you? Duan Lingtian looked at Qin Xiang and asked. The cold lights in Qin Xiang's eyes weakened slightly when she heard Duan Lingtian, and she squeezed out a trace of a smile. Don't worry, they're in an extremely safe place. No one can harm them. Huh? Duan Lingtian looked at Qin Xiang in bewilderment, and his brows frowned slightly. Peak Master Qin Xiang, they didn't return with you? No. Qin Xiang shook her head. Qin Xiang shook her head. They're still in the foreign realm. I returned half a month ago. As soon as I returned, I noticed the sect had completely changed, and only after investigating in secret did I find out that the sect had been annihilated by the Azure Forest Trisect that was formed from the Origin Convergence sect, the Demonic Lotus Blade sect, and the Snow Moon sect. Chapter 479. It's really as I expected, you've returned to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. When she spoke up to hear, Qin Xiang heaved a sigh of relief and muttered. Fortunately you're fine, otherwise I wouldn't know how to explain it to Kerr. When she mentioned Kerr, the enraged expression of hatred on Qin Xiang's face completely vanished, and replacing it was doting. Peak Master Qin Xiang. Duan Lingtian looked at Qin Xiang and frowned. Why would Kerr and little Fei be in the foreign lands? Could it be that you don't know that I brought them to celebrate the birthday of my big sister that's in a faraway place? Qin Xiang asked. I know this, Peak Master Zheng Fan told me. But what does this have to do with the foreign lands? Duan Lingtian said. Qin Xiang shook her head. Looks like you still don't know. That big sister of mine is from the foreign lands, and she's even an elder of a great power in the foreign lands. This time I brought along Kerr and Li Fei to celebrate my big sister's birthday, and my big sister took a fancy to Kerr and Li Fei's natural talent, so she temporarily left them behind. Duan Lingtian's body lightly shook. Foreign lands? Peak Master Qin Xiang's big sister is actually from the foreign lands? Moreover, she's an elder of some great power. Experts were numerous like the clouds in the foreign lands, and powers stood like trees in a forest. Existences that were able to be called great powers were all outstanding and formidable powers in the foreign lands. Duan Lingtian never imagined that his two fiancées had actually gone to the foreign lands with Peak Master Qin Xiang, and they'd even stayed behind in that great power in the foreign lands now. Of course, he knew that it was the good fortune of the two little girls. The great powers in the foreign lands possessed countless cultivation resources, and there was no lack of various spirit fruits amongst them. The two little girls were able to obtain the favor of a great figure in that great power, and it was undoubtedly their good fortune. Presumably their cultivations would surely advance by leaps and bounds in the future. Although he was slightly reluctant, Duan Lingtian still felt happy for them. Who would have imagined that when I return this time, the seven-star sword sect has actually changed? As she finished speaking, Qin Xiang's mood became slightly agitated, and killing intent rose in her eyes, choosing to devour people. A flowing light flashed within Duan Lingtian's eyes as he asked. Peak Master Qin Xiang, now that the seven-star sword sect no longer exists, do you have any plans? Qin Xiang's eyes flickered with a fierce light. I'll enter into closed-door cultivation and break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage as soon as possible. At that time, I'll annihilate the Azure Forest Trisect. You aren't returning to the Outer Realm? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Qin Xiang's words. Return to the Outer Realm? Qin Xiang laughed self-deprecatingly. Regardless of whether it was when I left with Kerr and Li Fei back then, or when I returned this time, that elder sister of mine sent people to escort me all the way. The person that escorted me back had already left when I entered the territory of the Darkstone Empire. The Outer Realm is exceedingly dangerous. With my little bit of strength, going to the Outer Realm by myself is extremely dangerous. When she spoke up to hear, Qin Xiang looked at Duan Lingtian and said, I know you miss Kerr and the others extremely. Don't worry, with the care of that elder sister of mine, they'll surely be able to obtain an even better improvement. Perhaps, when you see them next, their strengths would have already far surpassed you. Perhaps. The irreconcilable enmity of annihilation can only be relied on you and Kerr. As she finished speaking, Qin Xiang couldn't help but sigh. Even though she'd vowed solemnly earlier that she would enter into closed-door cultivation and take revenge on the Azure Forest Trisect after breaking through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage. But she knew clearly in her heart that with her current cultivation, not to mention the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage, even if it was the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage, she was still quite a distance away. Moreover, with her natural talent, it was practically impossible for her to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage in a short period of time. So she placed her hopes even more onto Duan Lingtian, Kerr, and Li Fei. Don't worry, Peak Master Qin Xiang, I Duan Lingtian swore long ago. I'll surely take revenge for the vengeful spirits of my 7-star sword sect that died. Duan Lingtian had a serious expression as he spoke seriously. Qin Xiang nodded. She believed that Duan Lingtian would be able to accomplish it. Duan Lingtian. Suddenly, a voice that was like a thunderclap sounded out from the horizon. Even though this voice was aged, it was extremely powerful and contained formidable origin energy, and it practically spread throughout the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city and caused an extremely great stir. At this moment, the people in the outer and inner city of the imperial city had raised their heads to look up at the sky. However, the gazes of most people were obstructed by the clouds and mist, and they were unable to see anything. I didn't hear wrongly earlier, right? Someone called out to Duan Lingtian. You didn't hear wrongly. Oh my God. That voice from before was simply like a thunderclap. Right now, everyone in the Imperial City might have heard that voice. A person that's capable of emitting such a voice and coming from the horizon is obviously a void stage expert. The owner of that voice came in a menacing manner and seemed to not be very friendly. It ought to be Duan Lingtian who defended someone. No matter if it was the outer city or inner city of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City, it was filled with similar discussions. Imperial Palace. Whoosh, whoosh. Two figures soared into the sky one after the other. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man in a dragon robe, and he was precisely the Crimson Sky Kingdom's emperor. Behind the emperor was an old man in gray clothes, and he was like a shadow that followed behind the emperor. This was the imperial family's new void-prying stage expert. He was also an expert created by the void advancement pill Duan Lingtian gave the emperor, and he was the emperor's trusted aide. Where did Commander Duan offend such a formidable existence? The emperor's brows knit tightly. That aged voice from before was thick and powerful, and the origin energy mixed within it caused him to feel shocked and terrified. He had an intuition. Even if he joined forces with the gray-clothed old man behind him, they might not be a match for the opponent. Divine Might Marquis Estate. Another two figures soared into the sky, and one of them was precisely the Divine Might Marquis Nyeyuan. The other person was an old man in black clothes, and he silently followed by Nyeyuan's side as if he was Nyeyuan's shadow, following him like a shadow. Little Tian, that kid. Where did he get such an expert? Nyeyuan's face was covered in a bitter smile. Duan Clan Estate. The Duan Clan's Grand Elder, Duan Zhen, the one and only void-prying stage expert of the Duan Clan, soared into the sky as well, and his face contained slight terror mixed within. Could it be an expert from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Exactly what infuriating thing did that little fellow do to cause this expert to be so furious? Although the rage within the thunderous voice from before wasn't too obvious, it was still noticed by Duan Zhen, who'd already broken through to the void-prying stage. Paladin Academy. Whoosh. The middle-aged scholar with a feather fan and silk headband stood in midair and looked at the distant horizon as he muttered, "That powerhouse seems to be extremely hostile towards that little fellow, Duan Lingtian. Such an existence, not to mention me, is even stronger than him. Even if all the void-prying stage experts of the Crimson Sky Kingdom joined forces, they might not be a match for him." At the same time that he muttered to himself, the corners of the middle-aged scholar's mouth curled into a bitter smile. Duan Lingtian's courtyard, house front courtyard. This voice, Duan Lingtian's face sank. Although he wasn't familiar with the owner of the voice, he had a deep impression of it and remembered it clearly. Elder Ming? Qin Xiang's beautiful eyes squinted as she discerned who the owner of the voice was, and a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on her face. Elder Ming is still alive. Elder Ming is actually still alive. Looks like the heavens really haven't forsaken my 7-star sword sect. At the same time that Qin Xiang muttered to herself, her figure flashed and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, she vanished before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Peak Master Qin Xiang. Duan Lingtian's face went grim, and he wanted to shout out to stop Qin Xiang, yet it was too late as Qin Xiang had already concealed herself in the clouds. Damn it. Duan Lingtian's eyes flickered with cold lights. No one knew better than him that even if Elder Ming was still alive, it was impossible for him to have escaped. After all, the experts of the Azure Forest Trisect were numerous like the clouds at that time, and they completely crushed the 7-star sword sect. Although Elder Ming's strength was strong, he didn't have Elder Peng's speed after all, and it was practically impossible for him to escape. In this way, there was only one possibility: Elder Ming had betrayed the 7-star sword sect. Little gold, enlarge and bring me up. Duan Lingtian didn't dare hesitate and hurriedly called out to the little gold mouse. After the little gold mouse enlarged, he leaped onto the little gold mouse's back and asked the little gold mouse to bring him up into the sky. Right at the instant the little gold mouse brought Duan Lingtian up into the sky. Void-prying stage martial artists of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, listen up. If I don't see Duan Lingtian again after half an hour, then I'll kill all of you one by one. The aged and sonorous voice sounded out once more, and it didn't lack a threatening intent. Threatening all the void-prying stage martial artists in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City. This time, when the voice was transmitted out, besides being mixed with thick origin energy, it also carried strands of extremely strange aura. Wind concept. Duan Lingtian's face sank. This voice was accompanied by vast origin energy and formidable wind concept, and it instantly spread to every corner of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City without missing a single corner. At this moment, so long as one wasn't deaf, practically everyone in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city heard these words. Looks like Duan Lingtian has really offended a formidable existence. What high-sounding sentiments. If we don't hand over Duan Lingtian, then he'll kill all the Void Stage experts in our Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city. That person is probably an existence that Duan Lingtian offended in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and now he's come to the Crimson Sky Kingdom to take revenge. The entire imperial city was in a complete uproar. Waves of clamorous discussions filled the streets and alleys, and practically all of them were discussing Duan Lingtian. Various versions of the rumors covered the heavens and the earth as they swept out. Supposedly, Duan Lingtian slept with the daughter of an expert from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, then didn't take responsibility and snuck away. So that expert chased all the way to our Crimson Sky Kingdom to get even with Duan Lingtian. No. What I heard was that the expert from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom took a fancy to Duan Lingtian's natural talent and wanted to take Duan Lingtian as his personal disciple, but was refused by Duan Lingtian. Out of consideration for his reputation in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he couldn't flare up. So he came to our Crimson Sky Kingdom to vent. Chapter 480. In a spacious courtyard within the Xiao clan estate, the siblings, Xiao Yu and Xiao Lan, rushed out of their respective rooms and met him head-on. "Brother, I'm going to find Duan Lingtian." Xiao Lan's heart burned with anxiety, her beautiful face was pale, and tears were on the verge of dripping. She clearly heard the voice that came from the horizon earlier and realized that Duan Lingtian might have encountered danger. "Let's go together." Xiao Yu didn't stop them and brought Xiao Lan out of the courtyard, preparing to leave the Xiao clan estate to find Duan Lingtian. His sister was anxious and so was he. Duan Lingtian was also his friend. Especially after Duan Lingtian returned this time, he even obtained the favor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's emperor, and his future was bright. He knew that behind all this, Duan Lingtian contributed greatly. So, he was very grateful to Duan Lingtian. "Wait for me." Xiao Yu and Xiao Lan had just left the courtyard when they heard an urgent voice coming from behind them. It was Xiao Sun who'd heard the news. However, the three of them were stopped before they'd even walked out of the Xiao clan estate. The person who stopped them was precisely the Xiao clan's patriarch. "I know you're worried about Duan Lingtian, but if you go this time, not only will you not be able to help, you might even be caught in the crossfire. So, as Xiao clan disciples you can't leave the Xiao clan now." The Xiao clan's patriarch had a serious expression as he spoke solemnly. "Patriarch, Duan Lingtian is our friend." Xiao Yu's words were very simple, and his tone contained incomparable firmness. "Exactly," Xiao Sun said. "It's precisely because he's your friend. At this time, you won't be able to help even if you go, and will only be a burden." The Xiao clan's patriarch continued. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun went silent for a moment when they heard this. Only Xiao Lan walked out with graceful steps, bypassing the Xiao clan's patriarch, and headed out of the Xiao clan estate. This scene was out of everyone's expectations. "Xiao Lan, I know you have feelings for Duan Lingtian, but if you insist on stepping out of my Xiao clan estate today, then you will no longer be a member of my Xiao clan," the Xiao clan leader said in a deep voice. The origin of the expert that came to look for trouble with Duan Lingtian was unknown, but since he dared to say that he would annihilate all the void-prying stage martial artists in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city, it indicated that his strength wasn't weak. Such an existence was something that ordinary people could not avoid. How would they dare to join in the fun? If Xiao Lan went to look for Duan Lingtian while bearing the identity of a Xiao clan disciple and accidentally offended that expert, then wouldn't their Xiao clan possibly be implicated? The Xiao clan couldn't afford to gamble. As the Xiao clan's patriarch, he had no choice but to consider for the Xiao clan. "Then I, Xiao Lan, am no longer a member of the Xiao clan from today onwards." Hearing the words of the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Lan didn't even turn her head as her clear and cold voice sounded out. This made the Xiao clan's patriarch smile bitterly. "Lan." Xiao Yu gritted his teeth and walked out with large strides, wanting to chase after Xiao Lan. "Xiao Yu, you want to be like your sister and leave our Xiao clan?" The Xiao clan's patriarch's face went ghastly pale when he saw Xiao Yu's actions. It wasn't a big deal for Xiao Lan to leave the Xiao clan. But Xiao Yu was the Xiao clan's hope. His natural talent was extraordinary, and now that he'd even obtained the favor of His Majesty, the Emperor, his meteoric rise in the future was nothing difficult. He'd even planned to betroth his daughter to Xiao Yu and foster Xiao Yu to become the next patriarch of the Xiao clan. But now Xiao Yu wanted to take a risk. "Patriarch, thank you for taking care of me all this time, but I can't disregard the safety of my sister and my friends. If I don't walk out of the Xiao clan estate's door today, then I'd be a brother and a friend in vain." Xiao Yu had a firm expression as he walked out with large strides with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. "Xiao Yu, wait." Xiao Sun was influenced by Xiao Yu and wanted to follow him. But before he'd even taken a step or finished speaking, he saw the Xiao clan's patriarch make a move and directly knocked Xiao Yu unconscious. "Patriarch, how can you do this?" Xiao Sun's face went ghastly pale as he asked in a deep voice. "Umph." The Xiao clan's patriarch swept Xiao Sun with his gaze and said indifferently, "Xiao Sun, could it be that you want to learn from Xiao Yu? Don't blame me for not warning you, but if you dare leave this door, then you'll have to lie down like Xiao Yu. I really don't know what you juniors are thinking. You clearly know that there are tigers on the mountain, yet you still insist on going up the mountain." As he finished speaking, he had a face full of resentment. Xiao Sun laughed bitterly. He knew that this patriarch would do as he said, and he could only hope in his heart that Duan Lingtian and Xiaolan would be fine. "Don't worry. So long as Xiaolan doesn't get into trouble, then everything I said earlier is invalid and doesn't count. She's still a disciple of my Xiao clan." The final words of the Xiao clan's patriarch caused Xiao Sun's expression to ease up slightly. At the same time, Imperial Palace. Whoosh. A beautiful figure dashed out of a luxurious palace, and everywhere she passed, a fragrant wind swept out. "Princess! Princess, wait for me." Behind her, a palace maid panted as she chased. "Nothing must happen to you. Nothing must happen to you." The person dashing ahead was none other than the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial family's Princess Bai Yao. At this moment, Princess Bai Yao's beautiful face went pale, and her clear eyes that were like water were filled with anxiousness. She wished for nothing more than to grow a pair of wings and directly fly towards that man's courtyard house. Whereas now, in the sky above the center of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city, three figures were like three gods as they stepped on the clouds. Suddenly, whoosh, a graceful and luxurious figure soared up into the sky at the first possible moment, towering above the clouds and mist as he looked at an azure-clothed old man in the distance. Elder Ming. This was a beautiful woman, and the beautiful woman's voice contained slight seriousness mixed within. "Is there some misunderstanding between you and Duan Lingtian?" The beautiful woman was precisely Qin Xiang, the former peak master of the seven-star sword sect's Alcade Peak, and an existence that had stepped into the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage. In the past, in terms of strength, she was only inferior to the sect leader, Linghu Jinhong, the sect guarding revered Elder Peng, and the two great guardian elders in the seven-star sword sect. Earlier, when she heard Elder Ming call out Duan Lingtian's name, she thought that Elder Ming wanted to find Duan Lingtian and protect him, so that Duan Lingtian wouldn't be found by the members of the Azure Forest Trisect. After all, Duan Lingtian was the hope of the seven-star sword sect. Taking revenge for the seven-star sword sect and even reviving the seven-star sword sect couldn't do without Duan Lingtian. But she'd only just soared into the sky when she heard what Elder Ming said at the end. At that instant, the pleasant surprise on her face had completely vanished. Elder Ming actually didn't come to protect Duan Lingtian, but had instead come to look for trouble with Duan Lingtian. She was unable to wrap her head around it no matter how she thought about it, and she only thought that there was some sort of misunderstanding. Little girl Xiang. The azure-clothed old man, one of the two great guardians of the seven-star sword sect, Elder Ming Xiaoming, was slightly surprised when he saw Qin Xiang appear. "Elder Ming, this is the former seven-star sword sect's Alcade Peak's master, Qin Xiang? As expected, she's young and promising. Elder Ming, you must strive to obtain such a talent for our Azure Forest Trisect." The red-clothed old man that stood by the azure-clothed old man's side spoke with a sonorous voice, and the red clothes on his body fluttered with the wind like blazing flames. "Yeah, Elder Ming. This little girl's natural talent isn't bad, and she might be able to become the first existence in our Azure Forest Trisect to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage in the future. At that time, our Azure Forest Trisect will be able to stand on equal footing with the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's imperial family." The last old man wore green clothes, and his figure was emaciated to the point of being skin and bones. His tone was extremely ghastly as he spoke. Meanwhile, Qin Xiang noticed the red-clothed old man and green-clothed old man, and her face went grim. All of you. All of you are members of the Azure Forest Trisect? Subsequently, she looked at Zhao Ming and said with a low voice, Zhao Ming, you actually betrayed the sect and pledged allegiance to the Azure Forest Trisect? Betrayed? Zhao Ming couldn't help but sneer when he heard Qin Xiang. Little girl Xiang, your words are slightly biased. Betrayed? I, Zhao Ming, have practically given up my entire life for the Seven-Star Sword Sect. But in the end, how did the Seven-Star Sword Sect repay me? My son, Zhao Lin, was killed by the members of the Seven-Star Sword Sect. My grandson, Zhao Ku, was crippled by the members of the Seven-Star Sword Sect, causing him to die without descendants. Since the Seven-Star Sword Sect betrayed me first, then why should I continue to work myself to the bone for the Seven-Star Sword Sect? As he finished speaking, Zhao Ming's tone was ghastly, and it contained boundless rage mixed within. Zhao Ming's words caused Qin Xiang to be unable to help but be stunned, and she said with slight hesitation after a short moment, Elder Ming, is there some sort of misunderstanding? You saw with your own two eyes that it was members of our Seven-Star Sword Sect that killed Zhao Lin and crippled Zhao Ku? How could this be fake? Zhao Ming sneered in disdain, and his face was covered in a layer of ice. Elder Ming, even if this is true, it's still a personal mistake. How can you blame it on the sect? Qin Xiang spoke angrily. Ha! Zhao Ming laughed loudly as he glanced coldly at Qin Xiang and said with a cold voice, Little girl Qin, let me ask you. If it was you and you saw the sect was facing a great calamity, yet you still had to risk your life to rescue the person that crippled your grandson, what would you think? If it was you and that person was about to be rescued, yet your son went to obstruct him and was killed by the higher-ups of the sect in the end, what would you think? Zhao Ming's words were filled with certainty, and it caused Qin Xiang to be speechless. After a short moment, Qin Xiang recovered from her shock, and her beautiful brows frowned. Elder Ming, the person you spoke of, is Duan Lingtian? Exactly, it's that little bastard Duan Lingtian. When Zhao Ming mentioned Duan Lingtian, his eyes were suffused with icy cold flames, and it seemed as if it could incinerate everything. Elder Ming, is there some sort of misunderstanding? Qin Xiang looked at Zhao Ming. According to my knowledge, Duan Lingtian is absolutely not a person that causes trouble without reason. What you mean is, from the beginning until the end, this matter was brought about by my grandson? Zhao Ming's face sank and his flames of rage burned to the limit. Right when Qin Xiang didn't know how to answer Zhao Ming. Perhaps it wasn't your grandson that brought about this upon himself, but it was absolutely your son that brought about this upon himself. A cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded out. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.